You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 179 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings, and joining me back in the kitchen studio this week,
indeed, in the comfort and the warmth.
Absolutely. It wasn't that bad last week.
It was a bit windy. Yeah, you didn't spend much time up by the satellite, did you?
No, not up by
I
the
must
satellite.
admit, I felt very sorry for our marvellous cameraman who had to spend
Carl,
about 4 hours up there. It was a bit of a wind tunnel.
It was a good day, though. We had a fantastic day at
the
Seething Air Show. We got loads of footage,
We did.
loads of interviews as well. We bagged so many interviews at Seething.
Some great
really
interviews.
good.
There's one that Bob's interview. I'm so looking forward to playing. That was really good.
But we got some great feedback as well from that. So we had a fantastic day.
We did,
all in all.
Yeah.
So it's what's the day? It's Saturday, just for a change.
Yes.
26th of August, and it's it's 10:50 in the morning here in the UK.
Right.
And yes, we are here for episode number 179. The chat room is full of wonderful
busy.
listeners, as always, talking between themselves.
Yep.
Air Stig, we've got someone there we haven't seen in the chat room before, the Air Stig.
Yeah, we know who he belongs to. That's the bit that I'm most nervous about.
Masha and Paul Tricker, Mariana, Owen's in the chat room. Liz Piper as well is in the chat room. Some chap called Nick Anderson's in the chat room.
Again,
Nice
never
to
heard
see
of him.
there.
Yeah.
And we've got Neville Bounds. Neville, unfortunately, couldn't join us this morning.
Yep.
He's very busy indeed. I expect he's gathering interviews from
from
probably royalty, I expect.
Well, absolutely.
I mean,
if you can gain entry to the BBC, frankly, royalty's the next step, surely.
I mean, William did leave the air ambulance this week, so I would imagine that probably he's probably getting
lining that up as we speak. Yeah, absolutely.
Well done. But we have some amazing
by way of
guest
compensation
hosts.
for the lack of no
I know. We have some amazing guest hosts joining us on the show this morning, and it's from various different time zones around the UK. So we can only say thanks to everyone for joining us, our guest hosts. But first off is ladies first.
I think so. It's only right.
She's one of the hosts on the Airline Pilot Guys show. She's a pilot, a doctor, a
She's
skydiver.
definitely the prettiest.
And very much so. And don't forget, she's also Miss World 2017. Welcome onto the show, Dr. Steph.
Thank you very much, Carlos. Wonderful introduction. Glad to be here with all of you guys this morning. Looking forward to a great show, and it's still quite early here, so give me a moment to continue waking up.
Yeah, the blind's still shut behind.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, moving on to the next person who was terribly offended when I referred to Steph as the prettiest one from the APG team. There's not really anything else you can introduce him as, because he is a legend, let's be honest. It is the legendary Captain Nick. Very good morning, sir.
Hi there, Carlos. Hi, Matt. The beard's coming back. I'm regaining
Thank goodness for that.
My renown.
I genuinely thought somebody had stolen your mobile phone and taken photos with it when that appeared on Twitter. I really don't know what happened there. But, yes, I did. Was there any particular reason behind the decision? You just fancied a change?
No. It was an age-related moment where I thought I'd just trim off a few hairs that were just sticking out, and I forgot to check the guard was on my razor that cuts it to the right, and I just went zip, and I went oh
dear. Okay, that's all right.
So with only half a beard, then I thought the rest
start again.
Start again.
That's fair enough. It's a very good excuse, and I accept your apology. That's fine, because just don't do it to the rest of us ever again. Frankly,
I'll try not to.
No, indeed. Very frightening indeed.
And our next guest, joining us from miles away across the pond, he's a host on the Plane Crazy.
What's up, Norwich?
Well, Norwich,
Okay.
So Norwich sort of way. He's a host on the Plane Crazy Down Under podcast, and he's just shut down his Barbie. Welcome on to the show, Grant McHerron.
Shut down his
Hey guys,
Barbie.
how you doing? And no, I didn't just shut down the Barbie. She left ages ago.
Oh no, that's family show, children. Family show.
That's your minds. I was being very quiet.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying family show.
How are things with you, Grant, on this Saturday night for you?
Yeah, it's just coming up on 8 o'clock local time in the evening, which is why I'm got a beer beside me. But yeah, look, all's good. It's actually been a relatively relaxing day. A few chores done. Updating some airshow notes from to get ready for whenever I go out and do airshow commentary again next. But yeah, it's all good here. Who knew?
Who knew indeed?
And also joining us from kind of the America side of the world. So we're going back. We're going backwards and forwards here. We've gone to Australia or America, and then we've gone back all around the world.
Yeah.
I tell you, it's a global show.
Somewhere near Georgia. Let's go with.
He's a pilot. He flies an awesome Mooney, which we saw at Pittsburgh early this year.
Yeah.
And he's just a legendary pilot, really. So welcome onto the show, Steve and Ivey.
Hey everybody, how are y'all this morning?
Oh, good. Thanks for joining us, Steve.
Lovely accent. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank y'all for inviting me. It's different actually doing the show instead of just sitting and watching it. So difference here.
The novelty wears off really fast, I can assure you.
So whereabouts in the US are you at the moment then, Stephen?
So I live about 30 minutes to an hour outside of Atlanta, west of it, closer to Alabama than I am Atlanta, depending on traffic. So I'm just a little ways outside of there.
Oh, right. Yeah. So I'm guessing the airways are quite busy for GA flying where you are.
Yeah, they are, and I actually live on the arrival corridor to the north runways at the Atlanta airport, so I get to watch commercial traffic all the time. So.
And how's the flying going, Stephen? You've got your Mooney. Still.
Yep, I did about 10 hours of flying last week. I went down to Florida to pick up some beer.
Right.
Came back.
Okay.
Yeah.
As you do.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. It was homebrew, so it's stuff you couldn't get. But I got down there, and I was waiting on the person to come get me from the airport so I could get the beer. And they got in a car accident, so I wasn't able to retrieve the beer.
Oh no, disaster!
It was a disaster.
Yeah, never mind how he was. You know,
exactly.
I assume he is all right.
Good.
Is he?
Gotta have the beer still.
Yeah. Amen.
But came back, and then I flew up for the solar eclipse on Monday to Blairsville, Georgia. That was a little bit off the center line. Got to see the total eclipse. And was really surprised. There were 10 planes that would just circle overhead that were trying to view the eclipse from their aircraft, and the Blairsville airport's kind of in a valley in between the mountains up there, so I was kind of waiting for somebody to tag each other, but they never did, thank goodness. But it was definitely a sight to see.
Yeah, I bet. Now I know you've been having quite a lot of work done to your little plane, haven't you? Sort of getting certifications and things all sorted.
What was that? So I was supposed to have my commercial check ride back on the 27th of June, and I was getting ready for it, reviewing the maintenance logs, and I had a airworthiness directive that I had forgotten about and thought I had understood the verbiage of it, but that word "or" was thrown in right at the tail end, so
always nice.
I had to postpone the check ride and go ahead and do the annual. So that took about 2 weeks. Didn't find anything wrong. I had to have the prop governor overhauled.
Yeah.
When I was taken off and everything, you would have kind of a wobble with the prop. So when you rotate, you could hear an audible change in pitch with the prop, and you really don't want that when you're trying to get up in the air and get going. So I got it fixed, put some new tires on it, and went for the check ride the week after and passed it. So I have my commercial single engine land with my instrument rating. So
okay.
Wow,
that's very good. Well done. Nice one. So,
hey, quick question for Stephen: how many aeronautical money units did that cost you? One AMU is approximately $1,000.
I actually haven't gotten the final bill yet.
Right. Okay. Enjoy it while you still can. Then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, apparently, when he was putting the plane back together, the mechanic broke my cowling cable. That I have some cooling cowlings on the bottom, and he broke the cable on them, so had to wait to get that. That was a 3-week lead time, and that one little cable, it's only like that big, maybe. About $350.
Ooh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's a Mooney.
Yeah.
Yep.
I have
not cheap.
I have to confess, I had heard a rumor that aviation in general was actually quite expensive. I don't know. I don't know where I heard that rumor, but
I was talking in the chat room last week, and I guess it was still early, and I misspelled Mooney and put money.
Right.
And then someone's like, oh, so you're flying money. I was thinking, well, I'm burning it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
not
pretty much the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's fine. Yeah.
Hey, even in hot air ballooning, it's all about the money.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
But it is a lovely aircraft. I did get a chance to see the T. Stevens Mooney at Pittsburgh, and it was very
we all
nice.
did. Yeah,
Very
absolutely.
nice
In fact,
indeed.
you nearly got a flight in it, didn't you, Nick? I don't think it did. It didn't quite come to fruition. I don't think, if memory serves.
No, somebody chickened out. So,
Oh.
I was all set. In fact, he was my ride. Stephen was my ride from Atlanta to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And I geared up the whole thing on
Yeah.
arriving
Sorry,
and then
Steve.
just throwing my suitcase in the back of his light aircraft, and off we were going to go. And I was really looking forward to it. And then he said, oh, the weather doesn't look quite right.
No, no. And it did, in Stephen's
I don't
defence.
see any typhoons or hurricanes. What the hell's the matter with you guys?
Yeah, come on. Yeah, grow a pair. Come on. Yeah,
Mitch, one engine, not four. One.
They just expect us to fly off into anything.
Yeah, but they glide quite well, don't they?
Yeah, but not for long enough. I think that's the issue. Yeah.
It depends on, some of those, up-down drafts, downdrafts can do nasty things to the wings, and then gliding is not an option.
Well, there is that, yeah, absolutely. So he,
I think
to be
I've
fair,
been
he
in the
probably
world of having to fly regardless too long.
well,
Correct.
Yes, as opposed to
Commercial
flying
versus private.
Yeah, as opposed to flying when it's safe. But boring, I know, but.
Well, I mean, I'll give you a perfect example. I mean, I was coming back last weekend, and I had looked at the weather and everything, and there was a front off my path by about 50 miles, and it wasn't moving that fast. I was like, okay, well, I've got enough space to go. And I get to the Florida-Georgia line, and there was just a random cloud. I was like, oh, okay, I'll go through that. 5 seconds later, I can't see because of the lightning, and it was just started up, and I was like, oh, I need 10 right, please. So it's stuff like that you can't plan for, and that's why you don't really want to go flying through any kind of thunderstorms or even forecasted thunderstorms, because you just, especially if you don't have onboard weather radar, you can't find it, and until it comes in front of you and almost hits you.
Well, of course,
it has a tendency to pull the wings off as well.
Yeah. Boring. I mean, I know, and there are occasions, especially at Stansted here, where we've had a bit of a run of thunderstorms, nothing like what you guys get in the States, and certainly not anything like what you get out in Australia. But we've had a couple of sort of mild pockets of thunderstorm, and it is enough to make aeroplanes get diverted to all sorts of places. I know Owen got diverted to East Midlands because they wouldn't let him land at Stansted because of the weather and things like that. So it can affect the bigger ones too. Sometimes, Captain Nick.
Yeah, I must admit, I was getting into New York last trip, and there was a fairly large storm front coming in with a lot of embedded thunderstorms, and we were racing this one that was heading for JFK, so we wanted to get in just obviously before it arrived, because our diversions were on the other side of it. You never want to divert going through a thunderstorm. That's not ideal, and there were big bolts coming out of this thing because the sun had just set, and it was an impressive light show, and it was literally 2 or 3 miles off the airfield, and it does sort of concentrate the mind. But I've been struck so many times now by lightning that I don't really worry too much about it.
Right, okay.
You should have curly hair, right?
Yeah. Well, I used to be dark.
Yeah. I can say, is that where the white hair came from? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The second one was the beard. The third one was the moustache.
Yeah, we're not talking about the beard.
White.
We're not talking about the beard. We're moving away from the beard.
Oh, okay. Well, the fourth one, obviously affected hair elsewhere in my body.
All right, okay, yeah. Well, and again, moving on.
I'm feeling like an albino now,
And so, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to get comfortable.
Right, anyway, we need to.
As Captain Nick terrifies us with yet more stories. Right, okay.
So, who started playing that music?
Yeah. For some reason, it's our chosen music for Patreon. I shall never quite understand what was going through Carlos's mind at the time when this particular track was.
I just wanted to have some comfortable music.
Right.
For,
yes.
for
Yeah.
Patreon,
Yeah.
so.
Pipe slippers, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Right. So
something relaxing on television.
We better do some news
here.
Okay,
all right, okay.
I mean, Steph's waiting. She's got to go and do a 468,000-mile run.
No doubt. Indeed.
469,000.
Oh, sorry.
Close.
Sorry. Nearly there.
Well, you see,
Yeah, she doesn't want to lose another toenail,
No. Okay. Right.
Oh, dear.
Okay.
I love it. Right, anyway, so we'll start the show, I suppose, as we do each week with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
Yes, I am.
And if you're ready, everyone joining us via Skype.
Woohoo! Ready?
Yep.
So, kicking off this week's first news story then, this one is on the standard.co.uk website. It's a story that I think
is that the one that George Osborne edits?
Oh, I don't know. It's a paper anyway, online. Right. The story I thought was quite appropriate for you, actually, Matt. The headline is Monarch has launched an airline menu to help nervous flyers.
Ooh, what has it got, like, what, diazepam or something in the food?
No, not quite. No. So the low-cost carrier has teamed up with the top food psychologist to help ease in-flight fears. If you're the type of person that loves to go on holiday, I think you are, Matt, but dreads the thought of having to take a flight on a 757-200.
200, yes, especially.
To get to your destination. A new
especially if it's being flown by United. But we won't. Did I mention that I didn't have a very good experience?
No more.
Right,
no. So it's in-flight menu.
As much as Vischer mentions that Tiger Air owes them a refund.
Right.
Oh. So low-cost airline Monarch has teamed up with a food psychologist to create an experimental snack box with ingredients that are specifically designed to de-stress nervous flyers. Professor Charles Spence has worked with Heston Blumenthal on some of his most creative menus and has helped the carrier revamp their in-flight menu with a spread of mood-boosting foods that goes far beyond the usual soggy egg sandwiches and congealed fruit puddings. The menu food, which is currently being trialled on several flights, serves up a series of clever snacks to quell the anxieties experienced at different moments throughout the flight. Prior to takeoff, passengers will be treated to an unusual funny, strange word.
Echinacea.
That's weird, that one. And licorice ice cream as a late night last night, which aims to boost immunity. After Monarch found that 39% of Brits get ill when travelling. The black colour of the ice cream is certainly counterintuitive. Most passengers who think of white or pale colours with ice cream, Professor Spence told The Telegraph, this may also help distract passengers from their chaotic journey, whilst also surprising them and playing into childlike nostalgia. While in the air,
black
flyers...
ice cream, yeah, they're trying for the goths, mate.
Yeah. While in the air, flyers can tuck into something soothing rice cakes. Powdered with lavender. Yeah, I like that. Which enhances relaxation and sleep quality. While a green tea infusion, never a great fan of green tea.
No, there's nothing wrong with green tea.
Antioxidants for a double boost of immunity. Passengers will wash it down with a chamomile and fennel seed and kelp tea.
Right.
Wow. That is kind of interesting.
I mean, frankly, I'm going to interrupt you there because this story is ridiculous. Frankly, as a nervous flyer, I don't really care what Like, if you want to help nervous flyers, I don't know, pour a Hypnol over it or something like that. Just knock them out. It's fine. That's the best thing you can do with nervous flyers. Is put them in a coma. Frankly, speaking for myself, I didn't mean Hypnol at all, did I?
No, this is oh dear.
Psychologist. Yes, Mr. Beetroot, please sit on the couch and tell me about the problem you've had with your tubers. I mean, it's like a food psychologist. It just has connotations.
Yeah, it's just I don't know. It's very weird. It's very weird. I mean, just drug them. That's the only way to get make them very relaxed and chilled out. That's the best thing.
I think we already have that food group. It's called alcohol.
I was about to say, just put an open bar on there.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah.
I mean,
the tranquilizer trolley. Hello,
Steph. You are the doctor on the show here today. Yes. So I mean, are there any particular foods that are incredibly calming apart from ice cream?
So I should preface this by saying I am the world's worst nutritionist. My medical degree did not confer any nutritional knowledge to me. So no, I don't know. Echinacea and chamomile and that stuff all sounds like stuff that's supposed to be soothing. Lavender. Yeah. I don't know that there's any science at all behind it.
No, it's this sort of herb.
I was curious. You didn't quite get to the umami-rich mushroom and tomato.
Oh, my apologies. Yes, I'm so sorry. I interrupted.
Marvelous bar. I was very interested in that one, actually. But,
yeah.
I've got to say, every single thing on this menu would have me going, yeah, no.
No,
just
no. Not happening, yeah.
The box is a nice colour, though, to be fair.
Is it? Right. Okay, yeah.
Probably more edible than half the stuff they're serving.
Yes, there is a lot to be said for that.
Oh, so moving swiftly on to the next story, which, as always, is Matt's favourite airline.
My favourite airline, yes. So this is from the Cosmopolitan.com, and the headline is Ryanair's Bank Holiday Flash Sale. To celebrate the Bank Holiday weekend, Ryanair is offering super cheap flights on many of its popular Europe routes as part of its latest flash sale. I didn't realise we were doing advertising for Ryanair.
Bank Holiday weekend.
This is very exciting. Named the Great British Takeoff. Oh dear.
Oh dear.
We see what you did there. The low-budget airline is selling seats from £9.99 one way on over 100 journeys to and from the UK. The flights depart from a number of airports across the UK, including London, Stansted, Edinburgh, Manchester, East Midlands and Bristol, and the choice of destinations features popular holiday spots like Nice, Oslo, Copenhagen, Mallorca, Barcelona, and the one-way ticket price gets closer to £30 on some routes, depending on the date of travel. But a return flight to France's, is it Biarritz?
Biarritz.
It's for under £60 is still a pretty damn good deal. As with most good things in life, there is a catch. Really? What with Ryanair? A catch?
Yeah, the flight out is £9.99. The flight home is £500.
Yeah. Well, the catch in this case is that you must be able to travel between the 1st of November and to the 31st of January 2018. So it's not too bad. And if you want to make most of the offer, you'll need to be quick. Flights must be booked by midnight on Monday, the 28th of August. So the bank holiday weekend is here. And to put the icing on the cake, we've launched the Great British Takeoff. I see what you did there. Seat sale with fares starting from just $9.99 for travel between November and January, Ryanair's Robin Keeley said. I won't read any more of that because it's
I tried last night when I found a story, and I went on my website last night, or this morning, sorry, the early hours of this morning.
Yes.
And I couldn't find, I tried different times, everything, and I couldn't find a $9.99 flight, so I hope I'm looking in the right place. But
yeah, I know from when a certain friend of ours who has something to do with low-cost airlines, I know you have to look in very specific places to be able to find them. You have to know where you're looking to find the
But I love
they are there, to be fair.
The ad they've got on their Twitter page, the Bank Holiday Bonanza ad, and it's all looking lovely and shiny. Great British Takeoff, $9.99, and in tiny type set is terms and conditions apply.
Ooh, yes, there's a shock.
Well, yeah, I'm shocked.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, there shouldn't be any. No, never.
No terms and conditions.
No terms and conditions. But I might have a go again later and see if I can find one of these 9.9. Because a tenner flight would be good.
Owen in the chat room says if you click on the advert at the top of the website, you'll see all of them.
That's a bit organised, isn't it?
So you've just got to fly at 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning.
Yeah, but that's all right. That's fine.
Yeah.
Well, there is that.
And fly home the minute you get there.
Yeah, well, again.
Yeah.
I mean, when I went
credits.
when I went with Owen to Toulouse, we more or less did that. We came back the following morning, so it wasn't so bad. We went like in the afternoon and then came back the following day, so that wasn't too bad. But yeah, quite nice.
So moving swiftly on to the next story, and who is up next? I've got the show notes. Here we go.
Good.
So Dr. Steph, this is a war story.
All right, this one is from the. Who picked out these articles for which person? Anyway,
Carlos. Yes. Next question.
Next question. So this is from the USAtoday.com. And this is another airline says goodbye to the Boeing 747 passenger jet. So sad. Oh, it's sad. So Taiwan, another airline, has said its final goodbye to the Boeing 747 passenger jet. That came Monday as Taiwan-based Eva Air retired its last passenger version of the jumbo jet in Taipei. Throngs of aviation enthusiasts gathered in Hong Kong to join the airplane for its final flight to Eva's Taipei headquarters. Pressed against the glass, they snapped photos and traded stories with one another while waiting to board. This is part of the reason I joined the aviation industry, said passenger Benjamin Tui of Hong Kong before boarding the jet. Benjamin worked as a loadmaster on the jet, and Eva 747s were some of the first airplanes he serviced. On the flight deck, Captain Dave Gross and First Officer Ali Shu were readying the airplane for its final departure, but found it tough to get any work done thanks to the never-ending queue of passengers hoping to pay them a visit. Was Carlos on this flight?
Yeah, probably.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Flyers packed the airplane's cozy upper deck and clogged the stairwell in the moments before pushback and taxi. Visitors snapped photos, posed for selfies, and asked the two pilots to sign all manner of memorabilia, which they thought was a little bit crazy. That chaotic vibe continued once airborne. Within moments of the seatbelt sign turning off, passengers flooded the aisles, galleys, and even the lavatories. Odd. It was
flooded the lavatories.
That's not something you want on a flight.
Who edited this story? All part of an effort to take in as much, of Eva's 747 as they could. Flight attendants hurried about the jet as they worked to complete a meal service for all 370 passengers on the short 1 hour, 17-minute flight. After landing, enthusiasts rifled through seatback pockets for unclaimed safety cards, taking them as unofficial mementos of the experience.
Free stuff.
A line once again formed for the two pilots, though this time down on the main deck. For a jet that has served many airlines since the 1970s, especially Jet, Eva's 25-year run is comparatively short, but the addition of the plane to their fleet in 1992 enabled the then fledgling airline to spread its wings on trans-Pacific routes that had previously been beyond its reach. They added Los Angeles first in late 1992 before expanding to New York and Seattle the following year, and went on to serve 28 cities in its their 747s went on to serve 28 cities in its tenure with the company. Just a little bit more here. Eva also used the plane's unique size to roll out one of the first premium economy cabins in the industry, making it one of the first with 4 classes of service, so first, business, premium, economy, and economy. When the airline cut first class from its jets, they installed economy seats on the airplane's considerably more private-feeling upper deck, a perk almost exclusively limited to business class passengers on most airlines. As for Monday's retirement, it comes roughly 2 years after the airline retired its fleet of 747-400 Combi jets, a variant of the plane that could hold both passengers and freight on the main deck. The airline will continue to use its fleet of 747 cargo jets until 2019.
This story makes Nick happy, I think.
Any 747 experts out there? I'm just curious. The Combi, does it have a reinforced floor that allows it to carry cargo?
I believe so.
In which case, when it's in the passenger config, you're carrying around all that unnecessary weight of a reinforced floor when you've only actually got passenger seats there?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like a brilliant idea. Oh, there you go.
Well, it is if you're trying to switch between freight and passengers. Most Combi aircraft have that scenario where you're trying to, if you had pure freight, well, how are you going to fly passengers? If you had pure passengers, how are you going to fly the freight? It's the worst of two worlds, but it at least lets you get a couple of aircraft out of one.
I guess it's the problem the 74 had of having such a tiny cargo space underneath. I mean, the 340-600 has got a considerably larger cargo deck than a 747.
Hey, I had the privilege. I had a nice facial expression. I had the privilege of being taken all through a couple of Qantas 747 300s and 400s to compare the differences. And yeah, okay, the 340 may have the bigger cargo deck, but wow, it's still pretty dang huge underneath the passenger deck. That's for sure.
Apparently, Glenn Taylor was saying in the chat room that the Royal New Zealand Air Force have a 757 Combi.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm not keen on the 757. Did I mention that?
Yeah, there's Combi versions of various aircraft, so.
Yeah,
so 757.
I've been on the 737 Combi up in Alaska, and that only has like 70 people on the back and enough for 350 cargo igloos up front. So I mean, it's still a good size space for passengers in the back.
Okay. You know, the Kiwi Royal New Zealand Air Force 757 was generally referred to on the when I was working ground at Avalon as Sheep Shack, but they did a very spirited performance with that. It looked incredible. If you ever get the chance, get on YouTube and look for RNZAF or RNZAF, depending on where you're from, 757 display. and the sound of that thing coming past with those engines cranking, they were really pushing it at low level. It was very spectacular. So yeah, look, the 747, she's getting long in the tooth, even the 400 ERs. The Dash 8 is not doing very well.
No.
I don't think that's entirely due to the market. I think the fact that they can't put fuel in the horizontal stabilizers of the passenger one due to wing flutter, that's contributed. It's knocked about 350 to 400, about 350 nautical miles off its range. Wasn't quite getting the fuel burn performance that it was supposed to, but they've done updates to try and fix it. And Nick, I'm agnostic. I like all of them. I love the A380 and Airbus aircraft. I also quite like Boeing, but my favourite's the Embraer E190, the Jungle Jet. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's awesome.
Nick's face.
So,
I rest my case.
Okay.
Nick was speechless there momentarily.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, absolutely. This was truly a gracious day. Yeah.
It's actually a really nice airplane. What's that fellow's name? Tyler Perry. I guess he's an actor for the Medea movies and produces movies, but he has a E190 private jet. He keeps it at an airport up above my house, and it's actually a really, really nice airplane.
Oh, yeah, just even as a standard passenger jet, you've got like nice leather seats. Most of them have, and they're two seats per side. There's no middle seat, so you're not sitting like this feeling like you got less space than an Apollo astronaut, and which you generally do. And especially most of the modern seats, if you're in the middle, you actually have less space than some astronauts used to. But yeah, look, it's good. The windows are at the right height. You're not like in a 737 or an Airbus. You're sort of doing this to look out them. So yeah, I have a lot of time for the E190, but I love all aircraft. There's beauty in the A380 in its way. It's going to look fantastic if they ever put the plug in to stretch it out. That wing can carry so much when you see it from above. It's a shame that most airlines aren't going for the 4 engines. They think 2's fine, but if the temperatures keep going up, they discover that the twin-engine aircraft can't carry as much passenger, cargo, and fuel, and still be safely operating out of the airports in the heat. So whereas a 4-engine aircraft can, if you have an engine failure on takeoff, you've still got 3 to get you into the air, whereas on a twin engine, you've only got 1. So you have to have these massive engines or get rid of people, cargo, fuel.
Wow. And talking about the Airbus A380, Nick, yours is the next story.
Oh, yeah. You haven't given me a 380 story.
How is that segue?
Yeah, that was award-winning, Carlos. I'm very proud of you.
Well done, sir. Well done. Right. Well, this is from Reuters, that well-known news provider, who says first A380 parked amid a search for new operator. So okay, sounds like the old big dolphin, duck, whatever you like to call it, is headed out. Well, we knew that. So Singapore, Paris, Reuters say that the first Airbus A380 Super Jumbo to fly passengers almost a decade ago has been taken out of service by Singapore Airlines, highlighting a debate over the future of the world's largest airliners. Singapore Airlines has already said it plans to hand back the first A380 to a German leasing company rather than extend its 10-year lease. The move focused attention on slack demand for the 544-seat double-decker and raised the prospect that some could be headed for the breakup yard, casting a pall over celebrations to mark the airliner's 10 years of service in October. So confirming a report in flightglobal.com, Singapore Airlines said it had parked the aircraft ahead of the transfer back to its owner. Its last commercial flight was to London in June. It is correct that the aircraft has been removed from service ahead of its return to the lessor in October. The spokesman said, "We're not in a position to comment on what is planned for the aircraft after its return." The owner of the aircraft, Dortmund-based the Dr. Peters Group, and Airbus both declined to comment. German owner says it's in talks with several entities, some of which will be from the planet Earth, who may be interested in the first aircraft, one of 4 due to come back from Singapore Airlines in, up to June next year. In total, the assets manager owns 9 of them, including 5 leased to Air France. These have been financed. I don't think we're really interested in that. Singapore Airlines continues to take delivery of new A380s, which will be fitted with upgraded cabins. So it's retiring some old ones, but it's still taking new ones. Yeah, I'm wondering if perhaps they're getting a better financial deal on the new ones than it is holding up the lease costs of the old ones. So that might be part of this.
Not quite.
Plus, you don't have to have the current aircraft out of service either when you're reconfiguring your cabin. You can just say, oh, you can have it back now and not have to worry about taking it out of service to change out the configuration.
Yeah. The other bit is that the newer ones get better fuel burn. They've had the upgrades that allow them to carry heavier weights. So for the same frame, the newer ones can carry more either fuel or packs or whatever, that kind of thing, and get a slightly better fuel burn per revenue passenger kilometre.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I think their market in Singapore haven't been doing brilliantly, but I think their business model probably only allows them to operate at a certain number of these on particular routes. So if it may be economic for them to get rid of some and pick up the new ones that are coming in. And as Grant says, they're probably more capable. However, that in turn weighs on fragile demand for the new aircraft. Well, that's been on the cards for a long time. Anyone who builds big four-engine airliners has been struggling, which has twice forced Airbus to reduce production. Does it mention there that Boeing have done the same? Yes, U.S. rival Boeing disagrees and stopped forecasting demand for very large four-engine airplanes, such as the A380 and its own 747-8. Yeah, they haven't sold many of those except perhaps to a few cargo operators. Airbus does insist that the 380 does have a future due to congestion and predicts 5% of aircraft delivered over the next 20 years will be in the same category. Well, that was kind of their concept, wasn't it? Because airports like, for example, Heathrow, where they're running at 98% capacity, the only way to move more passengers in is to have an aircraft capable of carrying more passengers, since you can't generate more landing slots. I don't know if that's common around the world, but certainly congestion was one of the driving factors for building the 380, but I don't think it's quite worked as they expected, and certainly the aircraft is not as economic as they hoped.
I think some of the Chinese airlines use them in a regional configuration that have something like 820 seats in them.
There was a French, I think it was a French carrier operating in some of the holiday destinations was going to do that. I don't know that any of the Chinese are doing that at the moment, but look, you can get over 800 seats onto that and still meet the 90-second evacuation requirements.
Wow.
It's all economy, and it's where Malaysian Airlines is thinking about taking a couple of their A380s and turning them into Hajj buses for people doing the pilgrimage to Mecca. Malaysia having a large Muslim population as well. So there's that kind of angle to it. That wing will lift a heck of a lot of weight, and if you take out a lot of the fittings and don't worry too much about cargo, then the 600 to 800 passengers is not impossible in that. So but yeah, Nick, you're right. I think Airbus were thinking they were going to get a lot more slot-constrained airports. We haven't seen that hit in the US yet. US airlines continue to book more aircraft than the tarmac can actually handle, and then worry and complain about why it is that they get delays and cancellations. And apparently that's all the fault of not having privatized Give It Away ATC, but that's another story.
Oh, no. No. Danger.
I think Stephen and I have a few things to say about it.
Do you? Okay, do feel free to discuss.
So have we all had the chance to fly on the 380, guys?
Yes.
I have. Yeah. No, I mean, I was Emirates down the back is very comfortable ride in the 380. I've been down to Australia twice on it from Dubai.
Oh, wow.
And it's not a luxurious trip when you're in economy, but it's quite a spacious airplane. It has a nice feeling of space. There's no claustrophobia attached to it, and they haven't crammed the seats in as tight as they could have done. So you're reasonably comfortable for a 10 or 11-hour flight. I didn't mind it at all.
Even in
I agree with that, but business class was excellent as well.
Right, okay. I see. Yeah. Just had to drop that in there.
I've done both. I did business class and economy. So
yeah,
that's those.
And economy was very nice. I was impressed.
I should have gone to medical school.
She just waves that Miss World crown.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
So
please.
Come on, Nick, you're up the front. You're in seat 0A. What are you complaining about? You get the best view.
Well, I sometimes do. You're quite right. Yeah.
Dare I say it? The best one I had was actually, funnily enough, on a Qantas A380.
Was it? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Grant.
Yes. And again, neatly segueing to the next story, Grant, we have a story involving Qantas for you. It's like we planned this rubbish, you know. It's
yeah. You guys actually put some thought into this. Who knew?
No, I didn't. No. Okay. That's down to Carlos. I can take no credit for that.
Well, here we go with something that links into what I just saw go past in the live chat. I'm sorry, I'm way behind on the live chat and I can't type in it. So, but Qantas to conquer last frontier of commercial flight within 5 years. Ooh. And this is Alan Joyce, perhaps having an O'Leary moment about trying any news is good news. Although, admittedly, he's not doing it for pay-per-use toilets or things like standing room only. What he's actually talking about is non-stop between London and Sydney by 2022. Oh, wow. As you may know, Qantas are introducing non-stop Perth to London when they get their 787-9s. But what they're talking about here is the flight between the glamour capitals. What? London and Sydney, glamour cap, anyhow, would take 20 hours, and according to the airline, will slash 3 hours off the fastest current trips that incorporate stops in places such as Hong Kong, Singapore, or Dubai. The airline said it will now spend a year working with engineers on both Boeing's 777X and Airbus's A350 aircraft to develop technology that will allow the trip. I mean, both those aircraft could do it right away, but you'd have to take out so many seats and stuff, it would not be financially viable. But speaking after positive company results, Qantas CEO Alan Joyce described London to Sydney as the last frontier of commercial aviation. He also touted New York and Paris as possible non-stop destinations. John Strickland, director at JLS Consulting, told CNBC Friday that a 20-hour direct journey to Sydney or Melbourne from London would generate higher fares for the airline. He's saying they're not going to put in as many seats as they could. It's going to be about 235 seats. That means even in economy there will be more space, so I think they will get a price premium because people do just want to get the journey done with no stop. It's not for anyone, he added. I think that analyst needs to go and have a look at the Qantas 787-9 seating plan because they're not exactly going to be that roomy in economy on the Dash 9. You're going to be doing a massive London-Perth non-stop in squished conditions in the back. It's not as bad as Jetstar with their 787-8 that has 335 passengers in an aircraft that Boeing sells for 240 or so, but that's another thing. He reckons there'll be more space because they won't put as many on, but that being said, it's still going to be squeezy in economy because they've got to get as much out. So they're talking about doing the Perth to London, a distance of just over 7,829 nautical miles, or 14,500 kilometres. So, this has always been Qantas dreams of it. At the very start of the Kangaroo route, where you were going from London to Sydney with hops and sleepovers and took 5 days and all that kind of stuff, to when you could start doing it with a 2 or 3 stops and a 1 stop. They've been wanting to get, this is their holy grail, because then they can just cut out the people in the middle and not have a stop in Dubai, as was being said. You can just go direct. And I don't see it being impossible. I think 2022 is probably achievable. Like I said, they could do it right now, but the cost would be so high no one would do it, or to do it at normal costs, it wouldn't make them any money. So they're not far from it at the moment. What do you reckon, Nick?
Sorry, Matt, I wasn't listening. I'm only joking.
You checked out as you heard Colin.
What?
No, I just think Airbus need to be the only aircraft manufacturer in the world, because then we'll get it right.
Indeed.
Hey, the A350 is nice. I Have you been on the cockpit of the A350 and had
we haven't got an actual airframe on the company yet, and I won't get to fly it anyway because I just don't have enough years left. So when we get it, I'll only have like 6 months left in the company. So, but I haven't actually been up the front of one, but I've seen pictures, and the pictures look very nice. I mean, it looks like a great airplane, but let's just remind ourselves it's an airliner. It's not very exciting.
Right. I don't know. Okay. There's the hatch just behind the captain's seat, which you lift inside the cockpit, and you can go down into the computer, like the brains of the aircraft. And the hatch was open, so I got to stick my head in and have a look around. And oh wow, it's pretty impressive in there. From the IT geek, aviation geek world, it's like ooh, the two merged.
That sounds just like the 340. We've got a hatch there. Yeah.
Same concept.
Isn't that to go down there and reset the circuit breakers when your computer acts up?
I think you just go down and you turn it off and turn it back on.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, there's just one big button down there. One big switch.
Control delete your plane.
Yeah.
To be fair, the ultimate is called re-racking the computer. And I remember pushing back out of Sydney, and we couldn't pressurize the airplane, get the air conditioning going, and we traced the fault, and it was to the door position indicator computer, which for some reason had decided that all the doors were open when they were all closed.
Right.
And so it had just, and then we tried to do a reset in the cockpit, and it just got stuck in bite mode, and everyone was boiling. I mean, it's Sydney, it's a hot summer's day. We've got no air conditioning. Everyone's just cooking down the back. And in the end, I said, we've got to go back on the gate and get this fixed. And the engineer came on and he said, I haven't got any spares, mate. I'll re-rack it. So he went. We shut down. He went down into the bowels.
Was he
and
Australian?
just basically pulled the computer out of its rack, and there was this great crash as he slammed it back in again.
Right.
And they said, "Try it now, mate." We pushed back and fired up, and it worked like a treat.
Really? At least it's easier. At least it's easier to reboot the F-18 Hornet, the classic, the double Jenny tap, where you reset the generators.
Yeah, well, anything that just kind of starts it off again, because these things are usually a software glitch, and so once you get it back running again, it thinks it's fit and fine and good.
Oh, there we are. So I just need to know, because the Plain Talking UK podcast has just posted in the chat room that it was quick and nasty, terrible Australian service for Qantas. I don't know, but none of us genuinely have any idea which one of us has posted it. Owen says it wasn't him.
Wasn't me.
So no, I'm in there under my own name.
Somebody's logged in as us. This is really scary. And it's,
or is it you?
It's you. It's not. It wasn't me.
No.
I reckon it's that Mr. Bounds fellow.
Yeah. Did you give Cernev credentials and access to the?
Yes, we might have done.
Yeah.
Oh, there's your.
That was where the world ended.
Well, no, because Owen does a lot of the editing for me, because I've got computer issues we won't go into, but I was blaming him for it, but apparently it wasn't him, so I don't know what that is. Anyway, very good. Whichever one of it was that said that was very good. Well done.
Very good.
Actually, on the subject of computers and rebooting and stuff, I noticed that somebody was saying that apparently the Delta cookies are very, very good.
No, Qantas cookies.
Oh, right, but I assume they mean
lovely.
obviously the browser cookies, not actual cookies.
No, I love it. I love the Qantas cookies. I ate so many of those on my flight back
I'm a
from
geek.
Dubai.
I'm just not as aviation geeky as you. It's just like,
The thing of it is,
Anyway,
they put them in big tubs, and you just help yourself.
Right.
I spent most of my time down the back end of the A380, just filling.
That's
my
what
pockets,
she
filling my pockets with Qantas airline cookies.
Spending some
But
time.
remember, Carlos, that doesn't reduce the total all-up weight of the aircraft. You're eating them. You're not helping the weight platform. You're not reducing the fuel burn.
Right.
Unfortunately, until we work out how to jettison your poo overboard,
Oh boy.
then we're stuck with you.
Morning, everyone.
Look, there's $1 million. There's a millionaire's yacht. Eject.
Anyway, so moving swiftly on to the next story.
On that note, I'm just going to step away for a bit. I'll be right back. Sorry.
Okay, right.
That's something come up. I'll be right back.
Okay. Right, fair enough. Yeah. Anyway, moving on.
And so next story is moving on is Stephen. It's your first story, and this one is all for you to read.
All right. So let's see. Charlotte man was arrested Wednesday at the Charlotte International Airport for bringing a gun through the TSA checkpoint. He was stopped with a .45 caliber handgun just after 4 p.m., according to the TSA officials at the airport. Major Pierce IV, 31, shows that he has a criminal history from Newport News for traffic violations and some other offenses. He was charged with possession of a firearm on city property. And it goes on to say here he was questioned, arrested on the local charge of carrying a weapon at airport property. And it says the date TSA officials have found 36 firearms at the checkpoint at the Charlotte airport. They go on to say there is a right way to travel with a firearm and a wrong way. Well, yeah. The wrong way is to bring it through the security checkpoint. Passengers are permitted to travel with firearms and checked luggage if they are unloaded, packed in a hard-sided case, locked, and packed separately from ammunition. Then the firearm must be taken to the airline check-in counter. So I did a little bit more digging into this because I know Atlanta also has a bad track record with this. And according to last year's numbers, so this is 2016, the Atlanta airport recovered 198 firearms.
Wow.
The Dallas airport recovered 192 firearms. And nationwide, they recovered 3,391 in screenings at the TSA checkpoint, of which 83% of those guns were loaded. So loaded means one in the chamber.
I suppose.
How many, Stephen?
What was that? Say that again.
How many were loaded?
Yeah, loaded. It means you have one in the chamber.
Yeah, but
so
how many were loaded?
83% of the 3,000.
83% of what up the spout.
Yeah.
So,
America.
Exactly.
I mean, this is the crazy thing with this, right? And I suppose it's because we're humble Brits here, and we're you know we
take a spud gun.
Yeah, absolutely, and you still have to have a permit for it. You know, I mean, it's ridiculous. Well, not ridiculous. It's very sensible, I think, personally, our gun laws here, and it's just I can't imagine that anybody. I can't imagine anybody wanting to take their gun through security. I just can't.
I'm completely unsurprised by this, and I'm sure Stephen's not surprised either.
I mean,
this is just.
My stepfather used to work for the police at the City of Atlanta Airport, and it was a day-to-day occurrence. And we have rather loose gun laws here in the States. Georgia, in particular, is extremely loose.
Right.
So they
relaxed,
have
I think, is the term we like.
travel.
Relaxed. We prefer the term relaxed gun.
But, you have these southern businessmen that travel and they leave their carry in their briefcase or their backpack and they forget about it because they're just so busy. So I know up until I think it was last year, you had to go spend a night in jail if you got caught at the airport for bringing your firearm through there because, well, you weren't supposed to. So they actually changed the laws in Georgia to where it allows now if you accidentally leave your gun in your bag when you're going through the checkpoint, you can actually return to your car, put it in your car, and then go back through the checkpoint with no problem whatsoever.
Right.
I love it.
But the problem gets to where you have folks that have more than one gun in there, and then it's like, okay, well, you didn't purposely forget this, so what are you going to do now? But
this is just, I don't know. I mean, what I'm going to ask Grant. What are the rules in Oz? I mean, if you've got things that are trying to kill you continuously in Australia, I mean, presumably that means that you're allowed one.
Or no, we're tough down here, mate.
Right. Okay. What you just use a bat
and a hit on the head with a stubby,
Right. Fair enough.
An empty beer bottle.
Well, that sounds sensible.
Look, the Aussies have very, very strict gun laws. In terms of, only can be used at rifle ranges and things like that. Friends of mine who shoot could give much better information. I'm not up on it, but I've got way more chance of somebody attacking me with a bottle or a knife if they're nasty than a gun. When I used to live in Boston, every Monday morning, this many people died over the weekend from gunshots. And it's like, wow, if that happened in Australia for the whole of the dang country, we'd be having conniptions. some guy went nuts with a gun in Melbourne, shot one person, and it stopped the whole country.
Really?
It's that kind of thing. Yeah. And
But
the NRA in the US likes to say that Australia's gun laws are failing. I cry blowing snow on that.
Yeah.
It's not true at all. The gun laws we've got are pretty full on, and it's I feel a lot safer.
Owen's actually just said in the chat room. He said he knew a captain that once got that had his. Had got his kid's My First Nerf gun taken off him because he happened to have it with him. An actual Nerf gun when he was trying to go.
You mean the
through.
gun that fires foam?
That's the one. Yeah. Well, the little the foamy things. And again, I think we have the air.
Some of them can look quite realistic too.
Well, yeah, I suppose there is that. And the air stick, so I read this out with slight nervousness and intrepidation, says that the UK and US listeners can't understand gun culture the same way that the USA listeners don't understand why people here in London carry umbrellas everywhere. That's a fair point.
They're Secret Service umbrellas. They've got hidden guns inside.
Although I will say, I was very confused one time. I was going through Heathrow, and I had my umbrella with me, and or was it Heathrow or Dublin? I can't remember. Someplace rainy,
That'll be Dublin then. Dublin,
definitely
Dublin.
Yeah, okay. But it was whatever. I was flying between the two places, and I was like, they made me take the umbrella out of my bag and open it up and show it. I was like, what? It's an umbrella. Like,
I know, but you see, have you not
happen in the US? Like, they could care less about the umbrella going through your.
Have you not seen Kingsman though? You see, if you've ever watched
film.
Kingsman,
I have seen that movie.
Well, there we are. You see, and that's why you have to watch a man with a bowler hat carrying an umbrella because they're basically Secret Service agents.
I knew I should have come back with my bowler hat.
Quite right. Absolutely.
Grant, I spent quite a while flying in Australia with a loaded 9mm Browning. So in the Australian Air Force, whenever we flew more than halfway up the country, I forget which line of latitude it was, but we used to, the military guys would fly armed because if we ejected near the coast, in fact, you don't have to be near the coast to find a crocodile, they're bloody everywhere. And if you ejected and you came down and you were therefore in a bit of a survival situation until someone could bother to come out and fly a Huey out and pick you up. We used to have to defend ourselves against the crocodiles that might be there. And if you came down near water, I mean, I did a lovely trip up one of the rivers in the Northern Territories. The guy there was showing us there's a big crocodile about every 100 meters.
Nice.
There's a good chance you're going to meet one if you're not careful. So the Aussie pilots used to say, though, that this thing carried 11 rounds. You'd use 10 on the crocodile and then save the last one for yourself.
Right.
You're unlucky.
Okay. Joyful.
Yeah. Because I was going to say a Browning versus a crocodile. Yeah. Pick.
Yeah.
I mean,
this is a 9mm, but there you go.
Stephen, you're going to say.
There are people carrying weapons. Like once you get out into the countryside, you can be licensed carrying your rifles and all that when you're on the farm, on properties up north, all that kind of stuff. Yes, for defence and things, and for taking out rabid roos. We've got a roo culling situation where you're licensed to go out and take them out.
A rabbit. I love it.
Yeah.
So real quick, speaking of the Charlotte airport and other things that get confiscated at checkpoints, there's actually a wine shop in Charlotte that has a whole jar of corkscrews and other wine bottle opening devices that were all confiscated at the Charlotte Douglas TSA checkpoints, and they sell them.
Wow.
They just get donated to the shop, and then they sell them again for like $2.
Nice.
So
I love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I just wanted to point out one more thing too with this gun thing. Here in the States, we have a program that allows certain pilots that pass the background check and do the training to carry firearms in the flight deck. And I know there's been cases where those gentlemen have gotten in trouble because they've carried their firearm outside of when they were supposed to. So that probably plays into those numbers as well. I know there's certain times they're allowed to carry it, and some, if you're non-revving and things like that, you're not really supposed to be carrying it with you unless you're coming back from a trip.
I don't think you're supposed to carry it through to Paris, for example. I think that was the one we covered on the show, Stephen.
Yeah, that was. When I was a flight attendant, we had a couple of guys that would carry theirs, and it was always interesting going through security with them because they get carried off to somewhere else. They have to go through their own little check and everything. It was it's always interesting when you came across the pilot that was part of the program. mostly because you're kind of looking at them like, are you sane, or Yeah.
Well, there was that guy who accidentally fired his gun. They called it an accidental discharge or something like that on the cockpit. That's Well, hey, I'm not the one who invents those phrases, but either way, that caused some problems.
That's just crazy. I mean, again, a lot of the chat room chat has been literally about like, I mean, there are such big. I understand. I do understand, like, wanting to protect yourself, and there are sometimes where I do think perhaps rules in this country are a little bit too tight when it comes to protecting your own. But I don't know. I suppose it's trying to find that fine line, isn't it, between that and. But again, going back to the aviation thing, why would you try and take something that could do, even if it accidentally went off in your bag or whatever?
Pocket.
I mean, the damage that it could do to the aircraft that you're flying in and all that kind of thing. I mean, surely a bullet going off is not great news inside an aluminium tube.
No. But there's another aspect to this too. We're mainly talking about commercial air travel. You have a ton of GA flying here in the States, and I'm fairly certain most of the pilots that live in Alaska and out in the remote areas out west are probably carrying a handgun themselves. And we actually had the TSA come out to where I work just to go over some safety stuff for traveling or whatever. But I asked the guys, it's like, what's keeping a GA pilot from, landing over there at the FBO, then, coming across to go into the terminal? And he said, nothing. It's like, oh, okay, that's good to know. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I'm not a great one to comment on the gun laws in the States because it's your country and you guys have to make it work, which is fine.
Yeah.
And I go over there a lot, but to be absolutely fair, I've never even seen anyone that is not in a uniform packing a gun.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm pretty relaxed about it in the States, quite honestly, because all the years I've been going there, never had a problem, never even heard of a problem. You get it on the news, but it's like a lot of things. If you listen to every aviation news story, you'd never fly.
Well, there is that. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So moving on to the next story on the TravelDailyNews.com site, this one. And headline, Boeing El Al Israel Airlines celebrates delivery of the first 787 Dreamliner. Awesome choice in aircraft.
Right.
So Tel Aviv, Israel. So this is El
Brace
Al.
yourselves, everyone.
They're celebrating the delivery of their first 787 Dreamliner this week. El Al have leased the aircraft through an agreement with Air Lease Corporation. And the 787-9 touched down in Tel Aviv this week following a non-stop 6,746,000-mile delivery flight from Painfield, adjacent to Boeing's factory in Everett, Washington. The arrival of the first Boeing 787 Dreamliner is a day of pride and joy for all of us at El Al.
Is it? Right.
Said El Al Chief Executive Officer David Maymon.
They must live terrible lives. That's what it needs to bring joy to them.
It's the highlight of an ongoing renewal of the El Al fleet, which started a year and a half ago when they decided to order 16 of the 787 Dreamliners. And they're happy to embark on their new journey with their first Dreamliner. So the Dreamliner is the family of technologically advanced, super efficient aircraft with new passenger-pleasing features. In addition to bringing the big jets ranges to mid-size aircraft, the 787 will provide El Al with unmatched fuel efficiency and environmental performance using 20 to 25% less fuel and with 20 to 25% fewer emissions than the aircraft it replaces. Now, El Al had a really old fleet. I was looking at some of their fleet lists. They had some quite weathered aircraft, I will say.
Yeah.
So it's probably about time they upgraded to, obviously, one of the best aircraft in the world, the 787-9.
Right.
I love this bit about
just one of the aircraft in the world. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, Matt, but I couldn't hold myself back.
No, he did. I don't blame you.
What's that, Grant? What are you going to say, Grant?
I got to say, passenger-pleasing features, yes. You're at a lower altitude in the cabin. You've got more humidity. You've got bigger windows. You've got those funky dimmer things. But when you're squeezed in 10 abreast in an aircraft that was designed for 8 or 9, no. Well, actually, it's 9 abreast in an aircraft designed for 8. And you're sort of sitting there. We've had people come off 787s going, I'm never flying that aircraft again.
Yeah,
because the airlines are...
It's all down to what the airlines put in there. I was chatting to our girls, Grant, about that, and because I was just noting, this was the 340-600 I last flew, and I said, oh, look, which lighting setting you're going to use? Oh, she said, oh, I'm just using the meal service setting. And I said, oh yeah. I said, on the Dreamliner we have got, I think, 12 light settings. She said we even have a different light setting for sort of clearing in when we pick up all the trash and everyone's used meals. And I'm going, what? You have a different... Yes, you've got mood lighting for that. And I'm
mood lighting. Right.
I think that goes along with the calming nutrition...
yes. Exactly.
You've got your meal paired with your lighting
teas.
Paired with your...
Yeah. Herbal teas.
Monarch meals.
Yeah, exactly. That's clearly the way forward.
So, Matt,
yes.
The next story is yours, Matt, and it's a bit of a rubbish story, really.
Right, okay. It's certainly a rubbish website. It's on thedailyhive.com. He really is on fire today. So it's thedailyhive.com, which always makes me very nervous because I'm...
What, hives?
No, well, there is that. But the Daily Hive is a website synonymous with not necessarily accurate stories, he says, choosing his words. Yeah, indeed, yes. To coin a Trumpism, fake news. Sorry, no, I haven't got gas. Everyday garbage could fuel the planes of today. In the final scene, Back to the Future 2, Doc is seen pulling into the driveway with a flying version of the DeLorean. He picks up a banana skin and crushed beer can and shoves the garbage into a Mr. Fusion canister under the hood of the car. While that may seem far-fetched even 27 years ago after the movie was made, Cathay Pacific's head of biofuels, Jeff Ovens, says that it is basically what is going on with the Hong Kong-based international airline industry leading program to introduce a renewable element to jet fuel. Spielberg was on the right track, Ovens told Daily Hive during an interview at Cathay City, the airline's expansive global headquarters near Hong Kong International Airport. Ovens spent the last 6 years building his department from the ground up with the understanding of the industry initially. In 2014, Cathay made a strategic decision to invest in Fulcrum Bioenergy, an American company that is in the process of building a waste-to-fuels conversion facility in Nevada. When the facility becomes operational in 2019, it will take household garbage and turn it into transportation fuels, including jet fuel. In the meantime, until the facility is ready, Cathay has been testing the use of biofuels produced from sugarcane by San Francisco-based, is it Amris? On a cargo Airbus A350 flight between Toulouse, France and Hong Kong. The reason why they chose the A350 was to go back to our environmental drive and reduce our carbon emissions, he said. The A350 is currently one of the most fuel-efficient aircraft in the skies today and has the lowest emissions per seat. We decided to choose the A350 to show the potential of a combination of the ultra-modern technology and low-carbon fuels combined to see what the net benefit of that would be from a carbon reduction point of view. Ovens says that any biofuel that is used is always certified to the same technical standards as regular jet fuel. In the case of Aramis, he asserts that his sugarcane biofuel is slightly better in terms of performance, even though the chemical composition is virtually identical. But over the long run, Cathay does not believe in the strategy of growing crops for fuel instead of for food, which I kind of understand, because it's just like you're going to be using so much sort of like land, I suppose. The amount of fuel we're using, you've got to find a way. I still think the old renewable, like sort of like making solar planes and stuff, has got to, surely that's got to be a winner, really. I mean,
says here the manufacturing process, the garbage is superheated and forms and turns from a solid form into a gas form. Right. This gas is then turned into a liquid, which is refined into fuel.
Wow.
Interesting. I wonder how much energy they use to superheat it.
I was about to say, the company I work for, we actually were trying to do this with a certain type of coal, and we actually had to shut down the project because the refining process was eating up so much electricity, it was making it inefficient to actually convert it over into a usable fuel.
Yeah.
So we were taking a certain coal, burning it to where it created the gas, and then you were pulling the gas and everything. I think it was costing something like 45% of the total megawatt output of the plant.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it's extremely inefficient. And I know you mentioned solar too. Same company I work for, we've got, I think it's 10,000 megawatts of solar power right now, which is great. But if there's a cloud hanging over you, you lose that, and then you have to cover that loss of power by bringing up another unit or something. So if you're in a solar aircraft and your batteries, crap out on you, you're kind of going to have to see how good your glide ratio is to see where you're going to land. And then also, I think United, they've got a 737 and 787 that run on that biofuel, and I think they actually used refined leftover oil from like McDonald's, Burger King, and stuff, and refined that. So they're
high energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But another thing to look at too is the airports. You have to find somewhere to store this fuel and everything, and airports are designed to store mostly Jet A. And if you have an airport like Atlanta where all of your fuel lines run underground, you're gonna have to put in another line, another infrastructure just for that biofuel. So it's going to be costly on the front end, and you have to really look at it. Is it really going to be saving you any money in the long run?
But I know this is one of the problems with because obviously sort of you get the dual fuel cars, don't you? Some that run on hydrogen and that kind of thing. And of course, one of the biggest problems, again, like Stephen was saying, is actually that initial, once you're basically, all that comes out of the back is H2O, and that's great, but the actual power required to generate that fuel that you're putting in the vehicle is, it's a tricky one. You've got to start the process somehow, haven't you? Really, but and I know there's a place I think it is again. It's in a desert somewhere in the States where they're developing a system where you can start that process using the sun. I think we've got a long way to go before biofuels and renewable energies become a viable way of getting things working. And of course, we're going to have to change our power consumption, I think, if we're going to stand any chance of it not going dark. But,
well, it's nice to at least see the efforts and the attempts made at moving that direction. Yeah. So I think if you don't,
you've got to experiment,
trial and error,
you
don't make any progress. So.
No, that's true.
Look at the very first aircraft that flew across the US. How many days did that take? How many people did it take? Look at the very first airmail. Look at the very first of anything. Yeah. It takes a while. It really does. Eventually, someone gets it all sorted out, and things actually, they start working. But the first electric cars, they were insane. Now Tesla have got the price down quite a bit, and the performance.
Well, in fact,
there's a long way to go, but we're taking steps.
Well, and Volvo, of course, are actually talking about making, like, I think it's not that far away. It's only sort of 5-6 years away, and they're only going to make electric cars.
Well, and there's another thing to look at too. I know my company is struggling with this, is the infrastructure to put in place for all this renewable energy, because it doesn't necessarily have to be tied to a transmission line. No. So you have to put in the infrastructure to put it onto a lower voltage line.
Yeah.
My uncle, he's got 2 sets of solar panels, and the power company out where he lives, he can only sell so much back to the grid because the line can't take the voltage coming to it.
Okay.
So, I know here in the U.S., my company in particular, we're upgrading some of our residential lines to meet the demand of this. But, you're talking millions of dollars because, copper wiring is not cheap. And you're talking thousands and thousands of miles to replace stuff just to save, it's a couple of cents per kilowatt hour.
But again, as Steph says, you've got to start somewhere, I suppose. It's moving in the right direction. We've just got to find a way of doing it. Anyway, we're slightly off topic there. So,
sorry.
So, Steph, next story is yours. A bit of an explosive story. The next one.
Yeah, this one is from the registered.co.uk, and I love this headline here. It says Airbus issues patch to prevent A350 airliner fuel tanks from exploding.
Always
and
nice.
Then the line underneath that is hot pumps plus fuel air mixture equals bang for aviation safety folk.
Right. Okay.
Make that as simple as possible, I guess.
Down and simple.
Yeah. That is a story that is directly aimed at my knowledge of aviation.
It says Airbus has issued an emergency patch to stop its A350 airliners from exploding. That's good.
Cool, always
The
nice.
fix, an update to the aircraft's master minimum equipment list, adds a number of items to in-cockpit displays to prohibit affected airliners from flying. Recently, an overheat failure mode of the A350 hydraulic engine-driven pump has been found. Such pump failure may cause a fast temperature rise of the hydraulic fluid, said the European Aviation Safety Agency, EASA, in an emergency airworthiness directive. The A350's hydraulic fuel cooling system is located inside its fuel tanks. If the hydraulic pump overheats and the tank inerting system, which floods the airspace inside fuel tanks with less combustible gas, is inoperative, the result is a rapidly heated fuel-air mixture. This, as EASA says, could result in ignition of the fuel-air mixture in the affected fuel tank. So the potential uncontrolled overheat of the hydraulic fuel is mitigated by checking that certain equipment aboard the aircraft is inoperative before it leaves its parking stand. Until this directive was issued, A350s were permitted to take off while carrying certain equipment failures, such as the particular valves in the hydraulic system and fuel inerting systems. The Master Minimum Equipment List is a set of instructions to ground dispatchers and flight crew setting out what defective equipment an aircraft can safely take off with. Some items, such as the pilot's reading lamp, can be safely inoperative without affecting safety. When it comes to things such as auxiliary pumps and backup systems, the situation can be less clear. Major aircraft manufacturers there compile this list as a definitive set of what failures are and are not permissible to fly with. Airlines compile their own aircraft-specific versions of minimum equipment lists. It's kind of redundant there. And precisely 100 A350s have been delivered to airlines around the world, including Lufthansa, Singapore Airlines, and Delta Airlines. There you go. So I'm still not sure what the fix was.
Talk about making a mountain out of a molehill. The MEL is our kind of Bible that we use to decide what is safe to dispatch the aircraft with if we've had a snag that hasn't been fixed since the last flight. Let me first of all say that the A350, if it hasn't a system of flooding an empty tank with an inert gas, which is usually nitrogen, that's more than the vast majority of airliners that fly. And in fact, to my knowledge, really only a few early generation jets had it, and military aircraft. I don't know of another civil airliner that has a nitrogen tank flooding system. And all it is that when the tank's full of fuel, that's not actually very much of a concern at all. It's actually quite hard to ignite aviation fuel. I remember a fireman trying to demonstrate how to put out fuel, and he was saying, this stuff's really hard to ignite. You've got to use a flamethrower to get it going. And once it's going, it's fine, unless it's aerated. He said, but when it's just sitting there and sloshing around at the bit left in the bottom of the tank, you can build up an inflammable gas above it. So it's just the mixture in the sort of gaseous form that's left over when you've got an empty tank. That can go boom, and there is a suspicion that the 747 that blew up out of JFK on its way up, heading north, that all the conspiracy theorists think was blown up by a ground-away missile. Yeah, for sure. It went off because there was a short circuit on one of its booster pumps in an empty tank, and that created a spark, and that managed to ignite the gas, and the aircraft blew up. So they still consider that the best thing to do is to, when you get an empty tank, to flood it with nitrogen, so that there's no chance of an explosive mixture accidentally being combusted. So all they're saying here is when you've got your nitrogen flooding system unserviceable, it's not a good idea to get airborne also with a hydraulic fuel pump that has a fault in it that could cause it to overheat. They're just saying those two are not a combination that you should get airborne together, and that's what they're writing in the minimum equipment list, so that there's a note in there that prevents you from taking off with those two faults. You must get one of them fixed before you go. That's all it comes down to. But the headline is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Aren't they always?
Yes,
read this story. Read this story.
But
shock horror.
The reason the A350 is the only one we know of in a commercial sense is because it's the first complete new build aircraft. Everything else is like the 737 MAX. Oh, it's a 737, just like the one from the 60s.
Yeah.
Not really. Whole new wing, whole new cockpit and all that, but still, it's just like it. Same for the 747-8, all that kind of thing. I think if you'll find it with the 777-9X may not have it as well when it comes online, but if Boeing actually create the 7X7, likely to be the 797, the middle of the market one, that'll be a whole new aircraft. It'll probably have to have it as well, because I suspect it's all new build, new designs are going to have it.
I'm surprised the binliner doesn't have it then. Perhaps it does. I don't know.
I think it maybe came out before they did because the 787 was, there's a number of things. Boeing were on a group that was talking about the lithium-ion batteries in aircraft, and they lobbied to have all the changes, like everyone else, about making them safer, but they also lobbied to not have them apply to the 787 because the 787 is already out. Anything else, anything else would have it.
Right. Yeah. We like it. We like that idea, but moving forward, we don't have to.
Oh, we don't actually want it on our airplanes. No, just everyone else's.
Unfortunately, the 787 was a marketing aircraft more than an engineering aircraft in many cases, but that's life.
And on that bombshell, it's time to move on to the next story.
bit of a retro. Bit of a retro story next for you to read, Nick.
Oh, right. What were airports like in 1987? Well, it's not really very retro. That wasn't that long ago. I don't know what you like talking about. How times have changed. Imagine a time when you could pull up to the aircraft 20 minutes before departing before a flight and know that you and your bag had a good chance of making the flight. This isn't a joke. Really? In the late 1980s, domestic airline passengers are domestic, right? Okay, that makes a difference. Could cut it close without losing their sanity. And whilst the most dramatic train changes in the way we experience airports wouldn't come until after 9/11, and even though the Airline Deregulation Act of 1978 brought more people into the skies in the 1980s, a trip to the airport wasn't the intimidating, stress-inducing drill it is today. Here are some different ways the airports were different, or here are some ways the airports were different. Back in 87, airport security was a breeze, relatively speaking. Well, let's have a look. Yeah, I must admit the FAA had control over security until late 2001. But this may seem startling, but there's a certain logic to it. Consider it was their planes and passengers that were most at risk. U.S. carriers contracted out this chore to private companies who employed minimum wage and minimally trained screeners. Travelers rarely encountered along lines, and the whole process involved a brief pass through a metal detector, shoes and jacket on, quick scan of hand luggage by an X-ray machine. Hijackings were the main threat, and it wasn't until after Lockerbie bombing of Pan Am 103 late in 88 that airports began tighter screening. Even getting to the airport was a more relaxed affair. Well, it depends on what you drove, I guess. I used to drive to the airport and park just steps from the entry door, said Joe, who runs joesendme.com. Okay, fair enough. Friends and family could come and see you off at the gate. Well, that makes security a bit of a nightmare, because I mean, you screen the passengers. If your friend and family can come and to the gate, presumably they can hand you a
bomb.
Oh, hang on, no. Here in Australia, you get screened. Everyone gets screened. I mean, I can go to the gate to meet people before they arrive. I can go to the gate to wave them off.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that still happens.
You get screened? Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough.
Yeah, everyone
no
goes
wonder the damn queues at security are so big. What's that all about?
Waving
I don't know.
goodbye
I
to them.
business class once, but then,
So non-travellers could also wait at the gate area for an arriving passenger. Well, yeah, that's fine, but I don't see any big need for that. I'm trying to keep this down to something sensible here. It's a pretty long article. Hey, you could always smoke. Yeah, in the old days, if you didn't get blown up in the airplane, you catch your lung cancer from all the smoking passengers. So, yeah, that used to happen. Without technology, there was a more personal service. self-service kiosks hadn't arrived. I mean, to be fair, if we had Nev on board, he would probably say that he probably prefers an automatic system because it's a lot more efficient. You can check yourself in when you've got a quiet time at home. Yeah. All you got to do is pitch up to the airport, throw your bag at the counter, and you know you've already gone, you've picked your seat. You don't have to stand there while some girl taps on 2 fingers.
I don't want to have to talk to anyone.
Well, no,
I'm just antisocial.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you there. At the time of booking my flight, I will say which seat I want, and yes, I have frequent flyer status,
right.
and I'm allowed to book my seat at the time of booking, and it's usually up in the nice legroom area, not the business class, but the nice part of economy. I rock up to the premium entry, throw my luggage at the person, have a nice chat. It's really good fun. Sometimes I recognize them from the flying I've done. Then it's down and you walk in the lounge. You can either go and just scan your boarding pass and get in, or I quite like going up and just saying hi to the folks and seeing where they're at. It gets to the point where I go to the bar in Canberra Airport and they know me. They say, "Hi, do you want a Fat Yak today?" Which is a type of beer.
Okay.
And I'm like, "Yeah, why not?" The human interaction, you miss all that if you wind up doing everything online or through the kiosks like I had to do with Jetstar the other day.
Yeah, but it's the difference between queuing up at McDonald's and going to a nice restaurant. If you can afford to go to the nice restaurant, you enjoy the experience. Nice if you have to queue up at McDonald's and stand there.
Do you think possibly that one of the reasons why is because back then the technology didn't exist for them to be able to do the things that we're used to now?
They had computers back in the 80s.
In the 80s?
70s, so
but
I don't think so.
But they took up entire rooms, didn't they? I mean, like back in the 80s, computers took up entire rooms.
In fact, I think you'll find most of the software we're using was still the software they had back in the 80s.
True, yeah. Especially if it's BA.
If we're going to reminisce about how good it was in the old days, when you got the service, you got the nice, and people would dress up, and you didn't have a bunch of yobbos on board getting drunk and causing problems. Pay. It's really simple. If you're going to pay £60 to go from London to France return, or you're going to pay stuff all to go from one part of the US to another, how about you stump up the cash, go business, or go private, or go with an airline that understands service costs.
Okay.
And that's how you get the old days. I mean, here in Australia, it used to cost $500 Australian dollars, $300 to $500 Australian dollars each way to go from Melbourne to Sydney.
Wow.
People would take the family on one trip on an aircraft every year if they were lucky.
Yeah.
Nowadays, everyone's doing it for like $30 each way.
That's very true. Yeah. And they also say that you had your pick of airlines. There were far more airlines serving far fewer passengers in the 80s, according to DOT's Bureau of Transport. 421 million people flew in the US in 1987. Golly, that was still quite a lot. Versus over 700 million in 2016. And there were at least 10 major airlines still in business, including some storied brands like Pan Am, Eastern, TWA. I love that one, that story about the little girl that used to walk down the aisle saying, "Excuse me, sir, would you like some TWA coffee or some TWA tea?"
Well, right. Well, there is that. Yeah.
Insert.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So today, 4 big airlines control more than 80% of the US airline traffic, is what they're trying to say there.
Good. Excellent. Okay, so...
I love the pictures as well that you put.
Yes, they were. Yeah, they were very retro. I mean, I suppose the whole idea of people smoking inside now is just so alien, isn't it? I mean, you can't imagine that happening these days.
That's very true. I mean, the last route we gave up smoking on board was the Narita, the Tokyo route. And the aircraft that went on that one, you get on them and you could distinctly smell the difference just in the embedded nicotine and all the furnishings. And when you did the walk round, the air that is dumped out of the air conditioning system, the pressurization system, comes out of 2 vents near the rear of the aircraft. There were 2 huge tar-filled dirty brown streaks behind the aircraft from those vents, from all the nicotine and tar that was being
so
set
gross.
out. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you think
really selling it, yeah. Let's go back to those days.
I wanted to share a link too, if anyone wanted to look at what the Atlanta airport, and then there's a couple airlines that this website shows what they used to look like back in the day, or vintage, whatever you want to call it. It's sunshineskies.com, and it has a detailed picture history of the Atlanta airport from when it used to be a racetrack up until what it is now. And then it also has a section that has some really off-the-wall airlines that used to be here in the States. I know one of which used to be Air Cherokee, that used to fly PA 180s between Gainesville, Georgia, and the Atlanta airport for, I believe it looks like $5.50 one way.
So, cheaper than Ryanair.
Yeah, well, there is that.
Yeah, but the key thing to remember is, what were you paying for a pack of cigarettes, a Big Mac, a can of Coke, and all that kind of stuff? You got to, when you're paying 2 bits for your pack of cigarettes, $5 was a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's true.
And it's in a Piper Cherokee. Also, just think about that. Think about that.
Ooh. Yeah,
that's a good point.
So, Grant, you are up next on. Watch this story. This is. There we go. It's a good one. This is just for Grant. This one
is it? Because he's the only one in a time zone where it's appropriate for him to be enjoying a beverage. Yeah.
No. I had a sip of beer before, but anyhow, yes. Should we ban alcohol from airports to stop passengers getting drunk and disorderly? I'm going to go into opinion mode here and say, should we try and prevent people from being adults? Yes. New figures show that arrests of passengers suspected of being drunk at UK airports and on flights have risen by 50% in the last year. Here we go. This week, the Sentinel reported on how a Congleton couple missed their flight and ended up having a boozy row in an airport. Darren Stanway, age 39, had been drinking in a taxi on the way to the airport. What? You can do that? And was charged with using threatening behaviour. He admitted the charge was eventually fined. He admitted the charge and was eventually fined £260, while his 34-year-old wife Nadia was given a £90 fixed penalty notice. And figures show that this sort of behaviour is becoming increasingly common at our airports. A total of 387 people were arrested on suspicion of being drunk at an airport between February 2016 and February 2017, an increase from 255 the previous year. Sounds like somebody's actually started enforcing it. But shoppers on the streets at Stoke-on-Trent. Oh, mate, these are the ones to get.
Quality.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, mate, with a capital QW. They seem divided as to whether airports should be allowed to sell alcohol to people as they're about to embark onto their flight. Some gentleman from Stoke said who quit drinking more than 30 years ago, thought airports should be completely banned. Yeah, well, he's got no bloody skin in the game, has he? Doesn't matter to him.
He doesn't care one way or the other.
No, I'm a teetotal now, but I used to be a drinker. I think drinking in the airport should be completely banned. At the moment, it is one person's right over the public good. Yeah, bite me. I'm going to get on my soapbox once again.
Right.
Look, if people get drunk in airports, it's like getting drunk in a nightclub. It's like getting drunk anywhere else. If you can't deal with it, you shouldn't be doing it. And let's all educate people about, becoming humans.
Yeah.
This is like, you're going to stop me having a few beers before a flight because some idiot over there decides to be a yobbo and drink a few. I mean,
yes, and for the benefit of those watching in YouTube, I have included a photograph in our footage of some beer. So there we are.
It's got an aircraft in the background.
Photo of an empty beer.
There we go. And there's one live. Yeah.
Well, that's a true tragedy right there.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. And I was having IPAs before, Steph. Just
I know.
FYI, but
I'm very, very jealous. Later today.
I'll be asleep while you're.
I quite like to have a pint before I fly.
But I mean, look. Sorry.
I said I don't mind having a pint before I fly. It's a nice ale.
Yeah, and I mean, if you can't be adult enough and mature enough, maybe you should be taken out of the gene pool.
Okay,
to be very blunt.
That is one way.
Games.
That is one way.
I'm just getting really over all this stuff. Oh, people are getting drunk, so we've got to, stop making the opportunities for them. They'll just go get drunk somewhere else. They'll go bash someone up or do something. Let's find the people who are causing problems when they're drunk. Let's address the problem. Don't try and stop it around the edges. Sorry, this is like just insane.
I don't think it's the amount of people getting drunk. I think it's the fact that everyone has a camera and video capability nowadays, and it's just getting put out onto the internet. I mean, we were just talking about how in the 80s airports looked and everything. Well, in the 80s, no one had a camera that you could upload instantly to the internet and everyone could see it. So, I mean, you still had these problems back in the day, and it was probably actually worse because you had, I would think more readily access to alcohol and things than you do nowadays. In some cases, but it's just a more awareness of what's going on around you. That's why people are actually wanting to do something about it now. Oh, it's a problem. Well, no, it's been a problem since humans started walking around the earth.
And really, even the problem with that is it's more when you bring up the social media side of things, it's that people get drunk and then someone tries to enforce not allowing them on the aircraft or you're removing them from the premises, and that's what gets videoed, and then it looks like this huge kerfuffle, and that's where people get all up in arms because they were being abusive to this that or the other, and you would never see that before. So
I mean, when I was a flight attendant, I remember 2 instances of people that got on board really drunk, and the first thing I was thinking was, well, I hope this doesn't end up on the news. And, you really have to evaluate people because, there was the woman that got on there, and she was sitting in the, very front seat right there on the CRJ 200. And the first thing she said when she sits down is like, hey, can I get a drink? And I'm like, well, this is going to go south. So I was like, well, you can get one when we get up in the air. And, no sooner than we took off, she passed out for the whole flight to Chicago. She was out cold.
Excellent.
Oh, wow.
Well done.
Yeah.
Good work.
Even better.
It's great. Yeah. But the other guy,
I thought she was going to be pushing the call button.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Ding, ding, ding.
Where's my drink?
The other flight, there was a group of, I think it was 2 couples that got on, and you could tell they'd been drinking right before they got on, but they were up front again too. I think there's something about those first set of seats that attract drunk people. I don't know, but I'm just gonna throw that out there. But he did the same thing, asking for a drink to start with, and I was like, oh, we gotta wait till we get up in the air. But when we got up, he just put his feet on the dividing wall right there. And on the CRJs, there's not, all the dividing walls keeping you from hitting the door right there, and had to keep telling him to put his feet down and everything. And then he wanted to drink. I'm like, no, you can't have one. You've been having a good time already. He's like, yeah, I just want to keep it going, man. I was like, well, you can wait. We're already almost to Chicago anyway. He's like, okay, cool. But he's like, man, just give him a drink. So it's just. There's a lot to deal with, dealing with drunk people on a plane, especially the smaller aircraft where it's just one flight attendant, because if something happens, it's like you just hope someone's going to help you out in that situation.
Yeah. Owen made quite a good point in the chat room. He said, well, if you limit the drinking in the airport, my take-home pay goes way up. The joys of working for a low-cost airline, I suppose. But
doesn't he have a sales quota now, too?
Yeah, possibly, yes. We'll glaze over that and move on. So he did, however, say, I hope, however, I feel that they need to enforce bars in airports not serving to drunk people way more. And I think that's something that certainly I know as an ex-landlord here in Bungay, that was actually one of the things that was sort of taught to us, if you like, is that we had to stop. If you appear to be really drunk, it's now actually a legal requirement that as the landlord you stop serving them. Now that sometimes causes its own problems, and I dare say it's no different in an airport. If you actually say to them, I'm sorry, I can't serve you anymore, you're too drunk, then they kick off. I don't know, it's sort of putting an awful lot of pressure on. I suppose it depends on how quickly security can come.
This is what we should do. We should do it like the people in the States that have a bad track record with DUIs. Put a breathalyzer right at the boarding gate, and you have to blow before you get on the plane.
Yeah.
Have you had 1 drink, 2 drinks, or Boris Yeltsin? Yeah.
yeah. Somewhere in between is fine. Yeah.
Right. This is what we call responsible serving of alcohol. My son's just done the course. He's working bar and also in the gambling pit at a local RSL, Soldiers League, for the vets and people in the club and all that. And you have to do a responsible serving of alcohol, and it talks about cutting people off. And how to do it, and how to deal with it, and how to get security there real quick. And, maybe we just need a little bit more of that. Hey, mate, you're drunk, no more. And gate agents who are able to recognize the symptoms and go, hey, you look like you're not really well here. Can we have a moment? Because you can't say, hey, you're drunk, even if they smell alcoholic, because they could have diabetes or things that have the fruity breath all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, but let's be realistic. The gate agent sees the average passenger for probably less than 5 seconds as they grab their boarding pass, pass it through the machine, and heave them on to the gate. Yeah. So, you're not really going to have a time to assess someone even fleetingly as they move through. And all someone has to do is hold their puppy, keep their puppy in one pile just for long enough to get past the gate agent, and they can go and carry on getting drunk on the airplane. Now, I'm looking at this from the operator's point of view. Yep. Now, in a nightclub and in bars and pubs, when you're walking around, I don't care if people get drunk, and I don't care if a landlord serves people until they get drunk. But when you're in the confined space of an aircraft, having drunk people on board is really no joke. And I have absolutely no qualms about denying people's human rights to drink in the 2 hours prior to departure by serving no alcohol at any airport. I have no problem with that whatsoever, because having been on the receiving end, and as Owen will have done, and anyone who's served cabin crew, because it's not really my problem. I'm just trying to deal with getting the airplane on the ground as soon as possible to get these people arrested and taken off. I would just rather have my life kept a lot smoother. The contents of my aircraft, those 99% of the passengers who are perfectly well behaved and happy to have a few glasses of wine with the meal and just enjoy the ambience that a little bit of alcohol gives them. I think that's fantastic, and that is the way to do it. But until you can stop the people getting drunk, drinking their duty-free on, which is very hard. Once you've got them on the airplane, that all becomes a bottled-up nightmare. So for me, the easiest and most simplest way is to, 1, stop drinking at the airports before you embark the aircraft. 2, sell no duty-free at the point of departure. You pre-buy it or you buy it at the airport you arrive at. Which is something that the airline industry has actually said is a great idea. We wouldn't have to carry all that duty-free on board, which is a huge dead weight on the aircraft. And also, it's all flammable. So if we end up in an accident, you wouldn't have bottles and bottles and bottles of flammable liquid flying around the cabin, which would be ideal. You pick it up when you leave the airport. But those, I think, are probably a pipe dream. They certainly won't happen in my time.
No, it's already happening here in Australia, actually. Most people are especially when they put the liquid bans on aircraft, and even after the relaxing of the liquid bans, a lot of us buy our booze when we come back to Melbourne because it's less to carry and less of a hassle. But look, no, I get exactly where you're coming from, Nick. But what I'd like to see is actually education and massive fines and making examples of people and publishing it everywhere and getting rid of the problem at the source.
That's great. Until then, I'd just like to close all the bars at the airports. You can have a cup of coffee.
And, there's something else to look into this too. We're talking about alcohol, but, here in the States, they've legalized marijuana for recreational use in some places. So now you have to deal with people being high,
who are drunk and stoned.
Well.
Excellent.
Yes.
That's a great combination. Yeah,
but you can tell the ones who are high on the aircraft. Typically, they're not getting into fights. They're just raiding the hell out of the cookie jar.
Well,
that's even better. You can put the marijuana in the cookies, can't you?
I don't know what you mean.
Edibles. Great.
Okay, moving on. So I think in summary, then, ladies and gentlemen, in summary, ladies and gents, basically, I think it's the minority spoiling it for the majority once again.
Correct.
And so all the stupid people are ruining it for all us slightly less stupid people, so that we can't have any fun anymore. Because, I must admit, it's the only time ever that I've had a drink at 6 a.m. is in the airport, and there's something really quite... nothing starts a holiday like a pint of cider at 6 a.m., frankly. That's the way forward for me. And I'd be devastated if they take that very small avenue of pleasure away from me. Anyway, I think we should probably do the last story now. We are literally going for the longest show ever. So, so yes. I think Stephen, this is with you, if that's possible.
Yeah. So this one is feeling the squeeze. Jetstar to cram extra seats on some airplanes. Budget airline Jetstar is preparing to squeeze an extra 6 passengers onto the majority of the Australian domestic short-haul and international fleet as it overhauls a fleet of Airbus A320s. The airline will add an extra row by installing new, slimmer seats and reducing the size of aircraft toilets and galleries. So it looks like they're going to redo their cabin with these new slimmer seats that I think some airlines already have. The photos look rather nice. The seats look rather uncomfortable, just looking at the cushions there. But all they're doing is adding one row to the back of the seats. And for comparison, the Tiger Air 737s carry 180, and once Jetstar gets done with this, they will be up to 186 seats. It looks like they're going to have 43 aircraft refurbished by the end of next year. So it looks like this is becoming a very popular modification for a lot of the Airbus fleet. And I know here in the States, I think American was going to add a couple of rows to their 737s as well, which for us sparked a debate in the government to regulate seat pitch for airlines. So I went back because I remember this article. It's from the Cranky Flyer. And if you go there, he starts talking about evacuations rules under 14 CFR 25, which is the Federal Code of Regulations, that requires that airlines must evacuate within 90 seconds. So he also goes on to state that this debate has come up because certain lobbyists and safety professionals have started to bring up the fact that it is harder to evacuate an aircraft with these smaller seat pitches due to the fact that you can't get your legs out of there quick enough because your bag is pushed up against you so much under your seat that you cannot escape and get into the aisle and leave. So
well, they're just going to take their bags with them anyway. So
yeah,
that doesn't matter
exactly. Yeah, so that adds a whole other thing to it. But so you got to ask though, when is too close, because we're talking 28 or 29 inches of pitch for this American aircraft. I'm sure the Jetstar and the Tiger Air aircraft's just as cramped too. I mean, I know for me, I usually fly Delta, and on the 88, I believe they've got 31 inches of pitch, and I mean that's getting cramped for me. So I mean, I'm not sure where we're going to find a happy medium here. I mean, I know airlines need to make money and everything, but if people can prove the fact that the reduced seat pitch is going to cause evacuation problems, well, are you going to regulate it, or are you going to let them keep going until something bad happens?
Probably the latter, the way most airlines and things go. But Jetstar has 29-inch seat pitch, and I was in it the other day. Yeah, and I'm 6'2". So I was having a lot of fun. They have scallops in the back of the seat to help give you knee room and all that. But fortunately, somebody took pity on me, and on the way up, I had 3 seats to myself, and on the way back, I had 3 to myself. So I actually had room. But yeah, look, it's tight. It's really tight, and that's how they managed to get 335 in a 787-8. So they're going to put another 6 rows in, which means they can put another 6 people in, which means they get another, say $300 to $500 easy, even at super discount, and that makes a lot of difference over 20 flights a day that you get those extra dollars, or 200 flights a day. It all adds up, hey?
Yeah.
That's why they do it.
Well, I remember these seats being first introduced, and they were saying, "Oh, we found a new slim seat, so everyone will get more leg room."
No.
Nope.
Well,
dreaming.
And
as you were saying before, Nick, they'll just the bean counters Uber Allahs.
I'm afraid so. And Steve and I have enormous sympathy with your thought that about people getting out, but the authorities will probably say, and even when they trial these and try evacuations, if they were to with this seat pitch, you've only got to move past 3 seats to get into the aisle. It's the aisle that's the major factor. So sliding out of your seat area is only going to take a relatively short time compared with moving all the way down the aisle and then getting off onto the slide. So I don't think it'll make a significant difference unless you are someone with an extremely large girth or has a disability.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference either. And, back to what Steph said, they're just going to take their bags anyway. And, that's going to end up deflating the slide. And then they're just going to have to jump from, 20 feet to get out of the aircraft. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the people behind them that will have to jump. Yeah. The guy that
was on the plane, and I pressured the slide on the way down. Oops.
Exactly right.
Well, they're talking about changing the way. Right now, they're doing some of the escape tests as computer simulations. They're also looking to change the way that they do the tests in reality by not, like currently it says you're not allowed to have people who are familiar with the aircraft. You've got to have a certain number of oldies. You've got to have a certain number of various demographics. But what they're starting to talk about now is you've also got to have people who are typical of the population, i.e. fatter, older, all this kind of stuff. People like me, I'm 6'2", and I'm I'm carrying too much weight. And it's
we prefer the term cuddly,
realistic.
Grant.
Take cuddly.
Yeah.
We're cuddly.
cuddly.
I was going to say, take the
You'll be
wallet
talking
out of
to
your
kid
back
again.
pocket, Grant.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but it's you have a bit of fun maneuvering your way out in a panic situation where perhaps somebody has frozen in fear and all this kind of stuff. I believe they did one evacuation that it got quite realistic. They paid the first 10 people off $1,000 each. And that got really realistic.
I would be pushing.
Yeah,
Wow.
I covered that on a plane tail. It was following the Manchester 737 rejected takeoff. They did a lot of investigations, and one particular human behavior scientist did exactly that. And that was the first time they managed to replicate the sort of activity that people were doing to escape the burning cabin, was by paying them. The quicker you got off, the more you got paid. And then people started climbing over seat backs and diving wherever they could and pushing people and jamming, and they then found all the problems that they had actually occurred during this evacuation when so many people died.
That's where I heard it. That's right. That was the latest reminder of it. That was a good plane tales, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
always good, Nick.
You're very kind. Very kind.
So moving on then, we close up the commercial news segment of the show. We've got a segment from Nev on the passenger experience. And we've also got a little bit of an interview we done at Seething last weekend. So if everyone's ready to listen to this week's instalment from Nev's passenger experience, we're going to play that right now.
Hello, it's Nev here again with another in the series of Nev's Passenger Experience. You may remember me talking about the business trip to Santorini that I did in June of this year, and I was joined by a number of my industry colleagues. A jolly good time was had by all, I can safely say. Whilst I had a captive audience around the poolside, I took the opportunity to be a nuisance with my recorder and microphone and spoke to a number of them about their flying experiences. I spoke to Jim Harwood of Focus 21 Visual Communications and his wife Louise about how they felt about the kind of service and facilities that were being offered to them. I began by asking Jim about some of his frustrations with the overall system.
I think one of my frustrations with flying is I just want to go, check everything in, get on the plane and fly, and I get frustrated by the whole weaving you through retail, and I think that adds a lot of unnecessary pain to the experience. For me, as a business flyer and as a pleasure flyer, I just like to get to the airport, and sometimes in some respects I prefer to go for smaller airports because I don't have that weaving through retail experience, which for me is just painful. The whole experience of going flying has improved. You know, being able to do meet and greet at the airport with some of the airport people in terms of car parking, online checking, bag dropping and stuff like that on the internet has definitely improved things. However, for me, after you get through security, the whole thing of having to wait to get on a flight is a killer.
So Louise, tell me a little bit about your sort of passenger experience on the airlines. What do you think about it these days?
I think it's changed a lot in the last few years since they've, the low budget airlines having to pay for your luggage, they've broken down the price. You think that you're getting a deal, but then when you actually add it all up and add the extras on, you realise that they're as expensive as they ever were.
When you're in the air, I think generally I'm really straightforward sort of guy, and I'm not too bothered about having my own space. In some respects, I think the way forward for flying should be, I think you should pay a certain amount for your seat, and then when you want to have luggage, I think you should pay for the weight. if I'm honest. I think you should be given a set amount of weight to sit in the seat. I wouldn't be too bothered about standing on the scales with my luggage at a drop-in place, or actually online weighing my luggage first and stuff like that. I think it would make things a lot easier.
Do you think it's quite a stressful experience in the airports these days?
Yeah, I think so, and I think, you know, that goes to like carrying their baggage around and stuff like that. It is, if you're elderly, trying to carry your stuff around and, you know, getting your bags in the overhead lockers, and I don't think that there's nobody there on hand to help older people, and they just have to, you know, the same as young people.
So when you're going flying for business, Jim, are you on the, what I would call the full service carriers, or the low cost airlines mainly?
Low cost mainly. I'm not the sort of person that gets a little bit too upset when I can't sit in a business lounge, or when I can't, you know, I like people, so having to sit next to a load of kids doesn't really worry me. I've got kids myself, so I take that sort of attitude where, you know, but I also do appreciate that people don't like that sort of experience. You know, the staff have got a job to do, and yeah, and the security thing is a big thing for me. I think when I'm doing business flights, whatever suits me the best way to get there for me is what I'll do, whether it's you know, the big guys or the little guys. It's the best way for the business and the best way for me at the particular time.
Now with the airline, you've got to walk miles out to the thing, and you know, like we were saying about carrying all your bags, and that's because as well, a lot of people are taking their luggage onto the plane now, and you know, there's no the customer service there. Maybe they start getting porters or something to carry your luggage out to the plane for you. That could be an idea.
And do you find that the smaller airports, like London City Airport, for example, do they offer more of what you need in terms of, you know, shorter check-in times and better accessibility?
Yeah, I think they definitely do, Nev, and I think, you know, you know, for me, because I'm in Hampshire, I love Southampton. The fact that I can even jump on the train at Basingstoke to Southampton Airport Parkway and be on the plane, you know, and there's no retail shenanigans, there's no sitting about, you know, you're on the plane simply, you're off the other end. It's great.
Ever had any difficulty with your baggage at all?
Well, yeah, I did. Last year, I went on a 10-night holiday, and I spent 5 nights without my bag. And the funny thing was that when we landed and my bag didn't turn up, my 18-year-old son said that he had seen the girl on the check-in desk push the bag went down on the belt, and the label wasn't on it, and she'd pushed it to one side. But yeah, and even then they tracked down my bag pretty quick. It only took about 2 days to track my bag down, but it took another 3 days for them to get my bag from Gatwick to Menorca. You wouldn't think that would happen, would you? And I had to make a complaint when I come back, but basically they don't really want to do anything for lost baggage.
What about compensation for something like that? Did they get anything at all?
Well, I think they want to give you £20 a day for each day that your bag's gone. What's £20 going to do when you've got no baggage at all? You're stuck in resort, and you know, they don't really want to help you. You have to chase it up when you come back, and that's not really the way they take your money, and then they're not bothered that you don't have your luggage. That's not part of the contract, apparently, I don't think.
Do you think that in 10 years' time we're going to see any major improvement, or is it just going to be more of the same?
I hope we're going to. I sort of like to see a space where we can get on and off of planes really, really quickly. Personally, from my own point of view, I think it should be done on weight. I think, you know, yeah, a seat should cost a certain amount of money, but then if you want to put stuff in the hold, in fact, my personal opinion is everything should go in the hold from a security point of view. And I think actually I feel a lot more comfortable when I see aircraft designers taking a bit of ownership to be able to maybe put everything in a hold and have those holds a bit like Thunderbird 2, you know, detachable in mid-air. So if there is a problem with luggage in a hold, actually the plane can still fly.
What do you think the future's going to be in terms of how could people improve these sorts of services, do you think?
With the flights and the baggage, I think in a way we need to go backwards instead of forwards, and I think they need to just, when you book a flight, your hold luggage is included in it, so you wouldn't have as many people trying to get all their luggage in the overhead lockers in the plane, and you know, and I think that, you know, we need to go backwards, not forwards, and pay a proper price for a flight, not advertise prices that are not what you're actually going to pay when you get to the end and you've got to put your credit card details in. That's the amount they should be charging those up front for the flights.
Thanks ever so much indeed for your time today.
You're welcome.
Right, well, here I'm at the Seething Air Show. I'm talking with John, who's got a very interesting vehicle here, not an aviation item. Tell us all about this, John. To me, it looks like a 6-wheel, highly converted Range Rover.
Yep, converted by a company called Carmichael, built for the Falkland Islands government to work at Stanley Airfield.
So this has seen active service there?
Yep. It wasn't much use on the airfield, so they used it locally. Had a front-mounted pump, 200 gallons of water in the back. Second time the pump packed up, they removed the pump, converted it to a rescue unit.
And what sort of features has the vehicle got compared to a more standard unit? Has it been specially adapted for specific conditions?
Originally, it was built because of narrow roads and off-roads out there. Gibraltar used these because they had a smaller version built because of the narrow alleyways and stuff in Gibraltar. It's like a first response vehicle, rapid intervention vehicle basically. Get there first, get some water on it.
And what sort of number of crew can it take?
This one could actually take a driver and 4 crew. The military spec was 4, including the driver, but the military spec's slightly different.
And all the guys can be all tooled up with BA and all the rest of it inside it as well?
Yeah, they could BA. We've taken the BA racks out of this one now because, again, we don't need them. We just lie 1 or 2 BA on the floor, put them on when we need it.
It looks a very impressive vehicle. It looks like it's been fully restored as well to me.
Well, yeah, if you look at the brochure in front of us, it's had a massive restoration. It now has modern firefighting equipment on as opposed to the old style, but it shows what a 29-year-old vehicle can do now. It's got modern capability on it.
Absolutely. So this was built, so converted around about late 1980s then, I guess?
It was built in 1988. I think the cost was something like £46,000, and it cost £2,500 to ship it to the Falklands.
Excellent, John. Well, thanks very much indeed for telling us all about it. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
TheVoicesInYourHead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23R Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link, 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/TME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Aviation media has long been the domain of the newspapers and magazines.
Well, not anymore. I'm Steve Vischer.
And I'm Grant McHerron, and we're bringing aviation right into your radio.
Yes, we're making aviation cool and interesting for everyone.
Hang on, aviation's always been cool. Check this out.
How cool is this?
Grant, turn that down. Here at Plane Crazy Down Under, we've got pilots, engineers, air traffic controllers, industry leaders, even politicians dropping by to talk to us about the amazing world of aviation right here in Australia and occasionally in New Zealand as well.
Wow, that's cooler than I thought, mate.
Find us at planecrazydownunder.com, on iTunes, or lurking about on other people's podcasts just like this one.
We've got crazy accents and lots of great aviation content.
And we promise not to talk about the cricket.
No, never. Not the cricket.
quack, 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 quack. What is cricket anyhow? Something we win a lot. Oh, there. Oh!
Where are those Australian guys?
No, I don't know. Who knows?
Hey,
Practicing our cricket.
Yeah.
Something they used to win occasionally.
Yeah. Correct. This is a very old advert, clearly.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Indeed.
No. Well, before we close up the show, have a quick chat with everyone before we finish. But no, how are things with obviously you guys over across the pond, Grant and Steve, or obviously Steve couldn't be with us today. But what's happening with PCDU?
Oh, look, time is really not on our side. The work I do with Defence here in Australia, plus my work with the Australian Ballooning Federation, there's not a lot of time to be editing. We've got a bunch of content. If anyone wants to come and join us and do some editing to Steve's strict standards.
All right. I don't think that's possible, is it? There's only one person who can edit to Steve's standards. Yeah.
But I mean, also now Steve's when he went from driving to being a depot manager, he ran out of time as well, and then he's no longer with the trains. So I used to call him a despot manager, but now he's off working with the folks who do Sydney Air Show, formerly Wings over at Illawarra, and he's working as their business development and marketing kind of manager and running around the place. So he's just over at Oshkosh, and I believe they're likely to be going back to ICAS, International Council of Air Shows, and things like that. So, yeah, he's doing a bit of running around. Look, I wouldn't say you're never going to hear another episode, but they have certainly... it's not so much pod faded, more pod slowed the heck down, man.
Yeah, well, speaking as somebody who's listened to your shows quite regularly and found it far more informative than the rubbish we put out every week. Anyway, it is
Settle,
something.
Petal.
I miss it terribly. I really do, because again, there's a really nice banter between the pair of you, and that is sorely missed. So there we are. I've said it. We miss you, Grant.
Thank you.
On, sort it out.
Look, I do miss it. But time, it's not always there.
No, that's fair enough. Nobody understands that better than the guys who are all sat here doing this podcast, frankly. So it's
exactly.
Yeah, all part of the fun, isn't it?
And no one can understand what you said anyway.
Well, there is always that. I mean, come on. Couldn't anyone figure out Struth, Bruce?
Struth, Bruce, yeah.
Crikey, Sheila, we got a few prawns on the Barbie, mate.
Barbies,
prawns, yeah. It's fairly straightforward. Yeah, it's fine.
So how is the new job going anyway, Grant? You're enjoying your posh new job?
Well, okay. I've been in the gig for about 2 years now, working first with a defence contractor. They're still working with them, to put it very bluntly. They're pimping me out to defence. I'm now working in a role that is what we refer to as above the line. So effectively, it's like I'm an Australian public service servant, so working with defence. So not uniform. And below the line contractors, that's sort of like where you get BAE and you say, go away and do this work, or Thales or groups like that doing stuff. So I'm effectively a contracted public servant. And yeah, so I've been doing that for just over a year, and in various roles with various systems. At the moment, I'm sort of what they call a system manager, looking after the vendor and project management and all that, looking after the computer systems, applications and so on that are used to do all the aeronautical charting procedures and all that kind of stuff for the Australian Defence Force.
Wow.
So I work with a group here in Melbourne. I'm co-located with them, and we're having a blast. I go to Canberra about once a month. I was just in Adelaide a couple of weeks ago at a meeting there, and then I've been in Canberra for a week for we were doing contract updates and things like that. And next week I've got a couple of days at Headquarters Air Command for some meetings and up in Sydney. So it gets me around a bit, but they're a great bunch, and I really enjoy it, because these are the guys who do all the, we make the charts that the pilots use, the helicopters, whether it's the Navy pilots, the Army pilots, or the Air Force pilots, they're using what we produce, and I understand it, I love it, and it's a lot of fun. So yeah, I'm very, very happy.
Good. Yeah, good. Absolutely. And when you're not doing that, of course, you squeeze in a little air balloon flying, perhaps, when you can,
Well, I Haven't done as much flying as I would have liked. A couple of times when the weather's been good, the balloon's been off with someone else, or it's been somewhere I can't get to easily. But yeah, I'm pretty busy doing all the paperwork and everything as the ops manager for the Ballooning Federation. It's sort of like being the chief pilot for a bunch of really fun people out there.
I bet.
So, Dr. Steph, what's been going on in the flying kind of world of Dr. Steph?
Oh, in the flying kind of world. Well, not a whole lot, which is unfortunate because I set out with all these goals for 2017 to do a whole lot of flying this year, more than I have. And again, time is always kind of an issue. I did get out last weekend, though, just for a couple hours to go and do a couple practice approaches, keep my instrument currency up to date. And I'm planning on going out. I did about half of what I needed to do, so I'll do about the other half probably next weekend. As long as nothing else gets in the way. So I still try and get out every once in a while. I'm still enjoying flying the Cirrus and also flying the 172 on occasion, just for fun as well. And also it's a lot cheaper to rent and fly.
Yeah, I bet.
So no more jumping out of aircraft then, Steph?
Oh no, I still do that too. I might do that today or tomorrow.
As you do. As you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I still
actually haven't done that
it.
for a couple of weeks. I took my when my family was out here in June, I took my brothers out and they did a couple tandem jumps, so that was good.
Yes, but if there's nothing wrong with the aeroplane, why are you jumping out of it? I don't get it.
Because it's fun.
Because it has nothing to do with the airplane.
Right. Okay. Right. Yeah. It's just like, is the service that bad that you've got to jump out of the airplane?
No,
really?
just.
I mean, they never serve any drinks on those airplanes, and it's noisy. So
yeah, fair point.
Why stay on it?
Windy.
Yeah. Why stay on it? Yeah. Quite right. Yeah.
Windy.
So, Captain Nick. Captain Nick,
yes, sir.
What's been going on in the flying world of Nick then?
Well, not a great deal. I just come back from New York. I had a nice San Fran earlier in the month and had a great meet up there. Doing the show, as we seem to be doing a lot of APG shows at the moment, which is great. And what is wonderful for me is they're as much fun and as satisfying doing them now as they were when I started. Plain Tales obviously takes up a lot of my time, and always looking for new subjects. Get a lot of suggestions. Unfortunately, not many of them are really practical. To make into a plain tale. They're often great stories, but they're either too long or too hard to research because I only have very limited time to get one out every week. But I enjoy doing that, and I'm enjoying upgrading my audio equipment so that I can try and make that a better listening experience. So, I'm like most guys. I love collecting kit, and I'm slowly collecting
like the rest
now
of us,
a lot of. Absolutely. A lot of technical audio gear now to go with all the other gear I have in the house. He who dies with the most toys wins. You do.
I
I
agree wholeheartedly. I couldn't agree more.
Still dies, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah, but toys.
Yeah, toys. Yeah, absolutely. See, ladies never fully appreciate this, do they? The desire for toys.
I know Steph does pretty well, I think.
I'm a fan of toys.
Good.
Yeah,
because you also get the situation of she who dies with the most shoes wins. So there's the balance.
Okay,
Steph should be running shoes.
No, there's a definite lack of shoes, and to be fair, I throw them away regularly because I can't stand having shoes all piled up in my closet.
Yeah, but you probably get through about 10 pairs of trainers a month.
A week.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do go through a lot of running shoes. Yeah, absolutely. And I need to buy a new pair now.
Yeah.
To buy a new pair now for my upcoming travels and marathons.
So, Stephen,
I've got a few days off before my next trip. Heading out to San Francisco on my next trip, so looking forward to that. We never used to get many San Frans, but with the bin liner being having such an appalling serviceability record, we've had to take 2 340s out of mothballs to hold the schedule up. Which means that we're now picking up some flights that we didn't previously have. So we're running all this summer. We're running San Fran's on the 340-600, which is nice. That's a great destination, and it's nice to do some ultra long haul on the aircraft again. Because most of my flying has been sort of East Coast. The furthest we were getting was really out to Atlanta. Right. In the personal life, photography is still going on. I've got a couple of dog shoots coming up, which I always enjoy. Really, honestly, there's nothing much wrong with my life. I've only got 742 days now before I retire.
Oh, blimey.
Not counting. Definitely not counting.
He's not counting. No, absolutely. Not that he knows the date of the numbers off the top of his head.
But he's got 700 days holiday to take.
Yeah.
He didn't mention hours and minutes. He's not counting at all.
No, myself
Oh, you reckon?
Yeah.
There's an app for that.
Just FYI, you mentioned New York there. Myself and Owen, believe it or not, are actually going to be in New York between the 4th and the 10th of November. So if anybody is actually there, then be great to see you. I don't know all the details yet. I'm actually going there for my new job. Obviously, I'm going to a vet show, a veterinary show there to try and sell our cars. But I will have some free evenings, obviously. So
excellent. Well, let's try and keep in touch in case I'm out there. I've got my next month. October is all standby, so I don't know where I'll be, but. November yet to come. And by the way, I have 17,842.87 hours. That's 1,070,572 million minutes, or 64,234,324 seconds.
I think someone is using an app.
There's an app for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Either that or your maths is incredible. You're wasted as an airline pilot.
What do you think?
I'm always wasted.
What do you think about that, Pip?
Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
Poor Pip, he tried to say something.
Did he? What did he try and say?
Hi, everyone.
Oh, right. Okay, good. Well done, Pip.
Right, so Stephen, before we close the show, then Stephen, come on, tell us what's the plans for the flying, future plans? Then what have you got in the book ready to come?
Well, I'm trying to finish my multi-engine, get my add-on for my commercial. The plane I was using though has been an annual for about 2 weeks, and it looks like it might be a little bit longer, and I'm getting really impatient with that. So I've located a flight school down in Florida, so I'm going to start going down there on my free weekends to finish out my multi and hopefully get it done by the end of September. And then trying to find an entry-level flying gig locally just to build some time up. That way I don't go bankrupt trying to get 100 hours.
That's a good reason. I like it, yes.
Yeah. But I'm having some changes at my current job. They're wanting me to do some different stuff and work weekends, so I'm not sure how that's all going to play out. As far as trips coming up, I don't have any flying planned other than going down there to Florida after the Labor Day holiday there, and that's going to be the Daytona Beach area. So
nice.
That's
maybe another beer run, perhaps, when your friend is better.
Yeah, that's right. I'm glad you brought that up. Melbourne's only another 30 minutes down, so that's good.
There we are. You see, it's all about the beer. It's all about the beer.
Melbourne, not Melbourne. That's Florida.
Melbourne.
Just clarify.
Slight differences.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very, very big difference.
Melbourne versus Melbourne.
So now, come on. We've asked everybody else who's here has already been asked this question, but of course, as the newbie, we have to ask you one very specific question. I'm afraid, as a pilot, right? Here we go. Brace yourself. And no, I'm never changing the question. It will always be this one. If you could jump into any aircraft in the entire world, either flying, retired, or whatever, what is the one aircraft you would most love to sit behind the controls of and take for a spin?
So I had a different response in Pittsburgh. I think Max Flight asked me this, and I gave off some commercial airliner. But there was a gentleman at work that gave me this book, and it was the history of the F-14 Tomcat. And I forgot how much I really loved that airplane and some of the stories that were in that book. So I'm going to have to go with the F-14 just to, be loud and screaming across the sky.
As Captain Al would refer to one of those grey things, then that he's so fond of. Yeah,
grey thing going across the sky.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
he feels the need for speed.
Yeah, I was going to say that's the Top Gun aircraft, the Top Gun choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's good choice.
Classic.
And you too could be in a flat spin heading out to sea.
Well, I mean, technically, I would be flying it, so I'd be okay. Goose, whoever's the
Goose. Yeah. Talk to me, Goose.
Yeah. You'll be fine.
GIB, the guy in back.
yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, guys.
Hey, wait! One last thing before we wrap up, if I can.
Yeah, of course.
Can I share some meetup detail?
Go, Steph. Go, Steph.
Yeah.
Yes, so September 22nd, so coming up less than a month away now, I'm going to be in Berlin. So this is actually probably more applicable for listeners of your show.
Yeah, absolutely. I can confirm that you've got an Owen coming to see you, so he should be...
I can confirm that as well. But we're going to be having a...
Deutsch?
No.
So, bitte, mein Freund bezahlen.
Oh, hello.
We'll work on that one.
Here we are, some lessons.
But no,
every language
one of our
is
community members, Tillman, has kindly offered to host a meetup at it's called the Circus Microbrewery.
Wow.
Probably the best way to find that information is to actually just do a Google search for the Circus Hotel. I think it's www.circus-berlin.de. And we're going to be meeting up there at 7 p.m. on Friday, September 22nd. So there should be a few of us at least.
Now that does sound like what I can only describe as the perfect APG meetup in a brewery. I mean, for goodness sake, could there be a meetup more appropriate for the wonder that is APG? That sounds absolutely perfect.
And you'll recognise Steph because she'll be the one with the stein that's full and will never empty.
Never empty.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm very excited to put my my bottomless beer stein to good use.
Splendid.
Unfortunately, I have to run a
jealous.
marathon 2 days later, so
right.
that could be interesting.
Okay. Good luck
Okay,
with
so
that.
I'll meet you there, and I'll drink from your stein.
Yeah, that I'm sure that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, is there?
I'll have no trouble with people helping me finish the drinks.
Drink your beer. Excellent. Well, that's good. Any last order of business, ladies and gents, before we close?
So give us some, because you are the social media guru on APG, Steph.
Okay.
So if you want to just fire away where everyone can find you and Nick and the rest of the crew.
Sure. Since it's not actually our show here, I'll just keep it real simple. You can head over to airlinepilotguy.com and find all of the information about us there, including links to listen to the show. And I think there's our information about our Twitter and Facebook stuff there as well. I could be wrong on that, but if not,
and if you're not following them already, then make sure you do so. I think it's at APG Crew, isn't it?
APG
yeah,
Crew.
on Twitter.
At APG Crew on Twitter. Yep.
Absolutely.
And Grant, where can we find you? Obviously, we kind of know where you are now, but
yes. If you haven't listened to him, you do need to listen to the episodes that are there because they are good.
Yeah.
So how will they find the?
Yeah, maybe skip the first 5. Just start with about number 6 or 7, and it gets better from there.
Okay.
The first 5 were pretty forgettable, but planecrazydownunder.com. That's where it all lives. And if we do actually get around to putting out something new before the death of the universe, it will be there.
Okay.
Excellent. Meanwhile, you can find me. I post on Twitter as Falcon124, all one word, and that's from the dreaded Falcon codes that came about in the 60s and so on. And it's probably the only PC one that's there. It talks about, my father introduced me to that. He knew a lot of the Falcon codes, and I was talking about one of my landings in a Cessna. And he said, it's Falcon 124, which is take that runway and that and that and that and that. And
okay,
that's kind of how I land.
Indeed. So, Stephen, where can people find out a bit more about your adventures if they can?
Yeah, so I don't have a podcast that I'm a part of, so I can't point you in that direction.
Just borrow ours.
You have
fine.
time.
Yeah.
You do now.
Yeah, I do now. So you can find me on Twitter. It's Stephen Ivey. That's STEPHEN IVEY 1990, and that also works for Facebook too. So if you want to find me on there, I don't really post on Twitter that much, and then Facebook I occasionally post some pictures of me flying. So you can get in touch with me there if you like.
Definitely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
And Nick, we know where we can find you on any Boeing aircraft across the globe.
That'll be a no.
If I was, I'd be a different shade of. I should be the same colour as my shirt.
Yes.
So that is where we bring episode.
I'd be going green.
Number. We haven't got the music for that. We'll try that one instead. There we go. How's that one? We're going green. We're going green.
No, that didn't really run off the top. End that.
Oh no. So that was where we bring episode 179 of the Plain Talking UK podcast.
Wow, it's
to
a long
close.
One. Yeah.
It's been a long one.
Yeah.
The actress to the bishop.
There we go.
Okay, yeah.
It's been a long one, but don't forget to join us again next Friday for episode 180. We're going to get the dartboard out.
180.
We're going to get the dartboard out.
We need
and
to
everything.
get Tony Green to do us a voiceover, do we?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So we're going to say a massive thanks to everyone who's joined us today in the chat room, all the listeners across the globe who've joined us in the chat room and chatted about pretty much everything today.
Oh, the Ron Jeremy music, Nev says. Right, there we go.
And Nev will be back. Nev will be back next Friday with us on the show.
I ain't doing this again.
And we're going to say a massive thanks as well to all the guests who've joined us on the show. So, ladies first, Dr. Steph, thank you for joining us early this morning. Across
my pleasure.
Yeah, it's been great to see you on the show.
Indeed,
and steal you off, Jeff.
Yeah, and also...
And Captain Nick, obviously a fellow APG person there in the host room there. Thank you for joining us this morning.
My pleasure, guys. It's lovely to be up when the sun's shining.
Well, yes, I bet. Yeah, absolutely.
And we look forward to listening to another Plain Tales
very soon.
Look
Yeah,
forward to that,
absolutely.
And Grant, Mr. McHerron, thank you for staying up, and give all our best to the lovely Kit as well when you see her.
Long-suffering Kit,
Yes, she is. But I'm about to go and probably nuke up some food and have dinner because it's about 10:20, so it's going to be a very small serving, I think.
I think so. Yes, absolutely.
And Stephen, all the best for your flying adventures.
Yeah.
Make sure you post loads of pictures on Facebook and stuff, so we can see what you're doing.
And thank you also for getting up so blooming early to join us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's just my regular work hours. I've already been up going to work, so worked out pretty well.
Yeah.
No, all the best, Stephen. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Yeah, and we'll speak to you all again soon, I'm sure. So that's it, guys. Take care. If you want, obviously, our show. If you don't know where we are yet, so it is www.plaintalkinguk.com. Please do send us some audio feedback. We love to hear from you, especially because it breaks up having to listen to me and Carlos. So please do send us some audio feedback. It is podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. That's podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, and our Twitter handle, if you haven't already found us, is @plaintalkinguk. That's it, guys. From all of us here around the globe, it's time to say goodbye. Say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.